Chapter 1144. A brief moment later, Chen Guang received another call from Wu Shan, informing him that the old man had already given out the mission. After listening to Wu Shan's overall arrangements, Chen Guang was completely relieved. The elders had given him enough face. Well, they might have been afraid of Chen Guang's so-called initiative. In short, they had come up with a whole set of operations specifically for this incident. The names they had come up with were particularly domineering and cool. Operation Glorious Shield. When he heard the name, Chen Guang's face turned red. I'm ashamed to face my ancestors. My Chen family has kept a low profile for several generations. Why am I such a weirdo in my generation? I can't keep a low profile anymore. According to the Glorious Shield's plan, nearly 1,000 elite soldiers from the nation's major military regions would be transferred to participate in this operation. Every single one of these soldiers could be considered the elite of the elite. They were not inferior to the special forces led by Xuelin. Of course, the main force of the entire Glorious Shield was not these people. Instead, it was the extremely rare members of the Guangding General Headquarters who had taken the initiative to cooperate with the military. Xin Qin ran quickly, leaving the bitter Wu Miaowan in the Guangding General Headquarters. Wu Miaowan cursed Xin Qin for her indiscretions and seizing the opportunity to get close to Chen Guang's parents. At the same time, she had to urgently call for a conference call to explain the current situation of their old leader, the publicly acknowledged leader of the martial arts world, Chen Guang, to the others. Initially, Xiao Miaowan was worried that these unruly leaders of the major sects would not do their best to help. She did not expect them to almost fight over the quota in the conference call. Dai Quan, the leader of the Xinqing sect, was unwilling to pass on the responsibility. Since ancient times, the Xinqing sect has been an expert in escorting and protecting goods. Whether it's guarding the home or guarding against criminals, we are all experts. Deputy Director Wu, you don't have to say anything. Leave the important task of protecting the director's parents to me. Wu Miaowan was particularly embarrassed. Deputy Director Xin has already brought her 1,000 despair sex experts to protect the sect. There are also 2 seniors at the peak of Pai Jin with them. There are no more traps over there. Dai Quan said anxiously, then it's the director's grandparents. All right. Sect leader Dai, your Xinqing sect is good at footwork, but when it comes to life and death, our 7 stars formation is more reliable. Don't say anything, all 49 inner sect disciples of our Green Mountain sect are here, and there are 7 sword formations of 7 stars. All the immediate family members of the director of the Green Mountain sect are ours. Dai Quan cursed, get lost. You old scum. However, another loud and clear voice came from the special communicator. Be quiet. I, Panda, the boxing tyrant, haven't spoken yet. I'm sorry, but my 18 arhats are already on their way. We're close to the director's hometown. Everyone, let's get there first. Dai Quan, the sect master of the Green Mountain Sword sect, and the others cursed him. Despicable. Shameless. You're a dog in the manger. At this time, the voice of plain-clothes sect's Taoist Sang Song came from inside. I'm really sorry. Recently, I've brought many inner disciples to Lalai County's Immortal Crane Temple to visit friends. I'm now at the ground floor of the Chief Bureau's maternal grandparents' house. In fact, I just went to the door of the Chief Bureau's house. Vice Bureau Master Xin is still on her way, so I asked my eldest disciple to watch over her. Damn it. You bastard. You shameless old ox nose. You said you were going to the Immortal Crane Temple last month. Why haven't you left yet? Are you staying in Lalai County? You old fart. The shameless behavior of Taoist Sang Song drew likes from all directions. I'm sorry, but the sect master May of our Flower Rose sect is by Madame Zhua's side. She has been protecting Madame Zhua for many days. Of course, I'm the acting sect master, so if the Chief Bureau is in trouble, I won't shirk my responsibility. Our Flower Rose sect has many female disciples, so it's my duty to be the bodyguards of the Chief Bureau's female relatives. I'm sorry, I have something to say. Maya Temple is full of nuns as well. Bah. You're an old nun who talks about the Buddha. Don't tell me you're going to escort her to the temple to become a monk. It's better than you guys tricking her into acting and selling her body. Wu Miaowan's ears were hurting from all the quarreling seniors in the communication device. She had no choice but to use her authority as the vice bureau chief. Seniors. Stop making noise. Please listen to me. She used to address herself as a junior in front of these seniors, but this time, she had no choice but to state her identity first. She was afraid that she would not be able to control the situation. Panda, who wanted to be the most unruly, saw that Taoist Sang Song had beaten him to it, so he decisively put the blame on himself. That's right. We'll listen to Vice Bureau Chief Wu. We can't break the rules just to curry favor with the Chief Bureau Chief. We're not completely Jianghu people now, we're public servants in the system, so we have to follow the rules. Old Baldy, for example, is now a deputy director level cadre. That's right. I, the Vice Bureau Chief, have something to say. That's great. The Vice Bureau Chief likes it. Panda's words won everyone's approval. With that, the situation was finally brought under control. Wu Miaowan had to rack her brains for a long time before she managed to come up with a comprehensive plan based on the strengths of the various sects, the realms of the experts sent by each sect, and the relationship between everyone related to Qinguang that was listed in the Radiant Shield's operation plan. Wu Miaowan was exhausted by the time she was done. Not enough manpower? What a joke. After the Poison Sect, Dark Sect, and other evil sects were eliminated, the newly selected 8 major sects and 27 sects sent out almost all their elites. There was no such thing as a shortage of manpower. If not for such a large-scale operation, Wu Miaowan would not have known that these major sects were so well equipped. Perhaps there were only so many top-notch experts on the surface, but core disciples at the early stage of skin force or the peak of bone force were a dime a dozen. After assigning the tasks, Wu Miaowan was truly at a loss. She could not help but secretly contact Fist King Panda's signal. Master Pan, what's up with you guys? Has everyone been very free lately? On the other side, Panda rubbed his big bald head. Deputy Bureau Chief Wu, don't you know? Wu Miaowan looked confused. What's going on? What did Big Chrysanthemum do this time? Sect leader May of Chrysanthemum Flower Sect has broken through the peak of skin force and reached the peak of Chrysanthemum Flower Sect, the paper-folding realm. Wu Miaowan was shocked. Oh my god. This is great news. Sect leader May should hold a martial arts gathering to celebrate. Panda smacked his lips. Hasn't sect leader May been overseas recently to be the chief's old flame? Pfft, to be the chief's teacher's bodyguard? How could she have the time to come back? The martial arts gathering must be held. It's been 300 years since Chrysanthemum Flower Sect has a paper-folding elite. This is indeed a joyous occasion, but we don't have the time now. We'll hold it in the future. When did this happen? Just a few days ago. Just a few days ago? Wu Miaowan looked confused. Of course she knew about Aunt May of Chrysanthemum Flower Sect. She had been stuck at the peak of skin force for at least 20 to 30 years. How did she break through just like that? That's right. According to sect leader May, in order to express his gratitude to her for protecting teacher Zhua, the Director General specially spent half a day to give her some pointers. At that time, she felt something in her heart. She felt as if the fog in her heart had been pushed aside, and she could see the light. She just had to cultivate outside teacher Zhua's lab for a few days, and then everything would be fine. I thought you would know about it, Deputy Bureau Chief Wu. After all, we all know that you're also the chief's old flame, confidant. That's right. Confidant. So that's how it is. Wu Miaowan came to a sudden realization. No wonder these seniors of the pugilistic world were all crazy and full of energy. If anyone else saw Aunt May break through like this, how could they not be envious? But they were not that close to Qin Guang. The pointers of an elite might seem simple, but the other party cared more about their mood. A conversation with an elite was better than 10 years of studying. Such benefits were hard to buy. But they were not related, and the chief was not in the office. He was busy all day, so how could they disturb him so easily? Perhaps they were worried that they would not have the chance to ask the chief for help. Now, they should learn from sect leader Mei and do him a favor. Sooner or later, they would have the chance to beg him. Compared to the possible benefits, what was a period of hard labor for someone's house guard? That was an opportunity. Not a hard labor. Wu Miaowan was furious. In order to trick the great demon leader into teaching her a few moves, she had almost stripped naked and jumped in front of him to stick out her butt. But in the end, this guy never did anything right and never gave her any benefits. She only became a guard for your lover for a few days, and you're so biased. You gave her pointers to break through skin force? You heartless bastard. I'm your lover, you can't do this. Aha, so that's how it is. I know that, the chief used to give me pointers often, but how can people compare? Sect leader Mei has been at the peak of skin force for many years, and should be ready to break through. I'm still young, there's no rush. Alright, Deputy Chief Wu, I'll get back to work now. Alright, Master Pan, go ahead. Thank you for answering my questions. After hanging up, Wu Miaowan became angrier the more she thought about it. But not long after, she felt that it was ridiculous and burst out laughing. Qin Guang had actually helped her and her lover before, much more than he had helped others. He did not favor one and discriminate against the other. But just like what he had said, how could people compare with each other? In the path of martial arts, although pointers from experts could enlighten people, it was more important to rely on oneself to cultivate. If one's realm was not up to par, no amount of pointers would be of use. Unfortunately, if Master was still alive, perhaps he could have become an expert of the next realm under his pointers, just like Aunt May from the Flower sect. But the dead could not be resurrected. No matter how much regret there was, it could only be repaid in the next life. Now that she and her lover had taken over the sect, they would definitely be able to carry it forward. With that in mind, Wu Miaowan sent Qin Guang all the aspects of the Glorious Shields operation plan that the General Directorate of Light was in charge of. Yes, she sent a QQ offline file. Chapter 1145. After reading it, Qin Guang felt that he owed a huge debt of gratitude. Other than gratitude, there was only shame. In fact, since a few months ago, after Qin Guang became the director of the Guangding General Administration, secret guards had been placed around his core family members. Qin Guang was well aware of this, but he didn't think it was surveillance. He had always been upright and honest, so he wasn't afraid of surveillance. In addition, if the elders really wanted to prevent him from harboring any evil intentions, this surveillance wouldn't be able to prevent it. For a person of his level and ability, if he wanted to do some evil tricks, no amount of surveillance would be able to stop him. But if his real pursuit was in other aspects, and he didn't have any shameful intentions, then these secret guards couldn't be called surveillance at all. It could even be said that because of his past and present identity, they spent the country's resources to match him with public resources. Modern warfare, to put it bluntly, was a battle of money. Every time an elite warrior was trained, especially an elite agent who could take on security missions, the cost was extremely high. If the weight of a $100 bill was to be measured, it would even exceed the weight of the warrior himself. The warriors who were previously arranged to be Qin Guang's core family members could be called walking RMB in a sense. Although the elite warriors ate the royal rations were also money, and so were the army's pay. The security of these people was something that ordinary people couldn't enjoy or even imagine in their lifetime. But Qin Guang deserved it. Based on what he had done in the past, it was worthy of such attention. But regarding the internal force martial artists, if it wasn't for his sudden appearance, the internal force martial artists would still be a great threat to the country, not to mention working together and supporting each other. But Qin Guang was a thin-skinned person, and he didn't like to take credit for himself. He didn't even realize in his heart that what he had done was a great deed that would last for thousands of years. He always felt that he only did what he should do within the scope of his ability. He didn't like to be an official. Otherwise, the other 99 people in the 100-people plan that Lin Jingwei mentioned might be able to compete with him. Therefore, he didn't need any conspiracy at all. As long as he wanted to and was willing to change himself, the elders in Yanjing might be even more eager to hand over the power to him. Just as Lin Jingwei had said, although there was a clan to govern a country, it also needed capable people. Chen Guang himself was that capable person that no one could ignore. Although he had relinquished power, the credit was still there. With the photo catalyst as an example, it proved that he would do more things in the future. He was still constantly creating miracles. Spending public resources on him would always be a profit and never a loss. Chen Guang made a few more calls to his family. Since things had already come to this, he couldn't hide it from them. Letting them know would also help them be more vigilant. After being busy for most of the night, he finally settled down. In fact, he also wanted to find out who put up the bounty. He even called Chu Zijin, who was still asleep. However, the bounty on the deep web was completely hidden. From the release of the task to the acceptance of the task, it was both anonymous. The deep web's own defense system also gathered the wisdom of countless underground hackers around the world. Even someone as strong as Chu Zijin couldn't do anything to the deep web. At most, she could only be regarded as one of the top 10 hackers in the world, not the first in the world. The deep web structure was very loose, and it had the help of a top hacker team. Moreover, even if it was breached, if the database of others was originally that kind of two-way anonymous information, it could only serve as a bridge between the release of tasks and the acceptance of tasks. It was impossible to get any substantive information from it. Governments around the world had worked hard for more than 10 years to conquer the deep web, but there was no practical effect. In desperation, Chen Guang could only let it go. Although he had a few general areas, it was impossible for him to personally interrogate them one by one, right? He would deal with it when it came. In the next few days, Chen Guang didn't return to the 5 capitals. Instead, he stayed in Yanjing and waited for the My God. Specific planning progress of the 4th episode. Considering his personal needs, this time Chu Zijin also tried to figure out Chen Guang's previous style of doing things, and then followed his standard of 3 tons of absolute strength. In addition, since it was a variety show, it couldn't just be him. He had to invite some well-known and competitive strongmen to participate in the competition, of course, including the Olympic champion. With others as a foil, he could show his strength. However, the Olympic champion of the national team would not easily participate in some variety shows, and he couldn't easily disrupt other people's training plans. If it was only Chu Zijin who went to invite people, she might not be able to do it. At this time, it was Chen Guang himself who had to do it. It was also beneficial for him to stay in Yanjing. In addition, in the past few days, he had dragged Big Beard Deng to participate in several promotional activities to promote women, including being interviewed by well-known overseas talk shows. Usually, Conan wouldn't go to places outside of the United States to do shows, but if the guest of the show was Chen Guang, there would be no such thing. In fact, a long time ago, when Chen Guang was still in Los Angeles, Conan had taken the initiative to contact Chen Guang more than once, hoping to do an interview for him. Unfortunately, even when Chen Guang returned to China, he couldn't get a slot. After all, in Chen Guang's opinion, time was more valuable than money. When he needed popularity, he could take the initiative to pay for an interview with UBC. When he didn't need popularity, it became someone else who needed him. Then, sorry, I'm busy. This time, Conan also heard from a friend that Chen Guang would have a few days to cooperate with the promotional plan of women, so he took the initiative to contact Big Beard Deng and directly ran to Yanjing to meet Chen Guang. Chen Guang talked for an hour with this popular talk show host in the United States for many years, and he regretted not taking the initiative to go on his show. The reason was that this guy was really good with words. Not only did he help him complete the promotional work for women, but he also took the initiative to bring the topic to American Airlines. The interview went like this. Mr. Chen, I heard that you still don't have any intention of reconciling with American Airlines, and the day of you going to court is getting closer. Now, American Airlines is trying to use the interference of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to let your visa expire, so that you can't go to court. What do you think of this? Is that so? Everyone knows that I'm law-abiding in the United States, and I have no bad records. If your country's federal government supports American Airlines' dirty tricks, then the most angry and anxious people in the United States shouldn't be me, but the people of color in the United States. I'm sure everyone knows what this means, right? As far as I know, there is almost no racial discrimination in China. Why would you focus on this, Mr. Chen? It's impossible for discrimination to happen to you, right? Chen Guang smiled and shook his head. No, I've encountered it this time. American Airlines has taught me a very profound lesson. I oppose all discrimination. No one can choose the family they are born into, and they can't choose the color of their skin. A person might be discriminated against because of his laziness or his moral character, but it shouldn't be because of his appearance, skin color, or even what he wears. A white man in a suit and tie isn't necessarily noble, and a black man in shorts isn't necessarily inferior. So, you'd rather give up the extremely generous private compensation and choose to go to court? According to our investigation, Baker Law Firm has filed a total of 157 charges against American Airlines and the Los Angeles Police Department. Yes, they must apologize. Not only to me, but also to all the people who have been discriminated against by them. When the police officer named Jack pulled out his gun, there was no room for reconciliation. Conan asked again, Schultz may be sentenced to life in prison. What do you think of this? He asked for it. Crimes can't be covered by dollars. Of course, rich people should be punished for their crimes. Why, isn't hiring someone to kill someone sentenced to death in your country? That's really regrettable. But he's facing more than 200 years in prison, and he can't be released on bail. That's good. Then, Mr. Chen, what else do you want to say to American Airlines now? Chen Guang turned his head to look at the camera, thinking of his big name on the dark web. A reward of $100 million US? He grinned. There's a famous saying in China. We don't advocate war, but we're never afraid of war. You're on your own. Conan's interview would be broadcast on ABC this weekend during prime time. The senior executives of American Airlines would definitely be able to see it. Chen Guang didn't care whether they were behind it or not. Anyway, he had to say it first. If it was them, they should be able to feel something when they saw his statement. If it wasn't them, it didn't matter. Anyway, other people would definitely be able to see it. Now that he was a tall tree that attracted the wind and couldn't keep a low profile, he had to let all the people and forces who coveted him know that a tiger's butt couldn't be touched. Of course, in addition to being busy with these miscellaneous things, Chen Guang didn't idle around these days. He carried a big backpack with him, which was filled with his professional course materials for this semester. He also brought his laptop with him, which was filled with revision courseware that Sun Xiaoxuan had carefully prepared for him. Others might not believe that such a person would actually care so much about the university's final exam. Moreover, he didn't plan to cheat, nor did he plan to use any special conditions to directly get himself the green light for all subjects. People who didn't know him well would call him stupid and say that he was bored out of his mind. However, he didn't think too much about it. He just felt that since he had boasted back then, his words had to count. Therefore, he had to take the test. Unfortunately, he couldn't save any faith points now. Otherwise, he could still use the customized special cup training to force his way through like last semester. Now that mortgage loans were as fierce as a tiger, he had to rely on himself. After a full 7 days, everything looked calm and peaceful. With the cooperation of dozens of employees from Tianguang Media, the 4th episode of God of Happiness, which had the strongest body in human history, officially began recording. Chapter 1146. Sitting in the same bus as Chu Zijin, Chen Guang realized that he was not at ease. He had forgotten one thing when he told Bai Hua that he was not afraid of thieves. Now that he was sitting in the same bus as Chu Zijin, he realized that this was a very serious problem. He was not afraid of death, but others were. Just like now, if the assassin hired by the other party took out a big gun and shot at the whole bus. If he discovered it in advance, it would be fine. He could fly out and catch the bomb with his bare hands. But what if he dozed off and failed to defend himself? In the same way, what if a remote-controlled bomb was hidden under the road while they were driving? If he could stay on high alert for 24 hours, he could indeed predict this kind of danger in advance. But that was impossible. People tend to be distracted. What if they exploded in the moment of distraction? He could resurrect himself, but what about the others? This problem was not serious a few days ago. But just before he left this morning, he suddenly received a notice from the Shun Special Training Camp that a group of people had sneaked into the country yesterday. In addition, there were several organizations that had been under surveillance abroad that had their members acting strangely. Although they could not track them in time, it was very likely that they had come to China because of the $100 million bounty. A few days after the dark web bounty was released, the $100 million bounty was like a stone thrown into a lake. It gradually began to cause waves. This meant that his peaceful life was about to be broken. It meant that the danger of staying on the dark web could suddenly become a real danger at some point in time. Chen Guang, what's wrong? You seem to be very nervous from the moment you got on the bus. Chu Zijin, who was sitting beside him, keenly noticed his abnormality and asked. I'm fine. At least I'm fine now. Chen Guang rubbed his brows. He was not lying to Chu Zijin. At least before he let his guard down, nothing would happen. Oh. Seeing that he was not willing to say, Chu Zijin did not press him. Chen Guang silently turned his face out of the window. Beside the bus was an old Huaxia military off-road vehicle, which also belonged to Tianguang Media's fleet. Chen Guang recognized the people sitting in the back of the vehicle. They were two sect experts who were originally stationed near Yanjing. Chu Zijin was also one of the candidates on the list of the Glorious Shield. In fact, these two experts had already snuck into the program a few days ago and secretly followed Chu Zijin. Separated by 2 layers of glass, Chen Guang exchanged glances with the 2 experts in the back seat of the car and then nodded slightly. Forget it, I'll let them record first when I get there. I'll go back to the recording studio when I have my own scenes. Xiao Chu, help me find a car in Langfang County, I will drive myself. I won't be going with you. Chen Guang thought to himself, rather than sitting in the same car with someone else and being scared and not wanting to implicate them, it would be more comfortable to drive alone. All right. Although Chu Zijin didn't understand his intentions, her personality was like this. She never asked questions that she shouldn't ask. Chen Guang closed his eyes and pretended to sleep again. It had only been a few days, but he deeply understood how painful it was to be remembered by others. Sigh, I'm still a little too confident. I'm not strong enough to create my own world with my thoughts. Before this matter is over, I have to live as a loner. The group arrived at the filming location. Because of Chen Guang's sudden strange request, Chu Zijin had no choice but to adjust the recording plan at the last minute. She first recorded everyone else's scenes, then planned the scenes that required Chen Guang's appearance together, and settled it all at once. Because of this, Chen Guang didn't dare to stay in the same hotel as others. Instead, he found another small hotel with few people. While the other side was recording, he didn't go far. Instead, he watched from a distance of 300 to 400 meters, like a thief. He was really annoyed by this, and the more he thought about it, the angrier he got. Forget it, when this matter is over, I might as well take the initiative. This kind of passive feeling is really terrible. Clenching his fists, Chen Guang repeated the names of the candidates in his heart. At most, I'll just waste a little more effort. I'll personally bestow the soul-snatching art on all of you, and all you have to do is answer me. I've already reminded you. It's you who are stubborn. Then don't blame me for bullying ordinary people because I have a golden finger. Gnashing his teeth, Chen Guang was annoyed by Su Tao's words. Chu Zijin thought that he was probably sick. Something must have gone wrong in his brain. Why did he hide so far away for no reason? Chen Guang wanted to tell her that he could be under the watch of the killer at any time. He even wanted to tell her that 2 of the newly recruited workers in the film crew were rare internal strength masters that ordinary people dreamed of. But he didn't say it in the end. It wasn't that he was selfish, but that the target of the killer was only him. Whether he told Chu Zijin or not, nothing would change. If he told her, it would only make her uneasy for no reason, and there would be no benefit. When they were in danger because of him, it was also when he was with them. The situation seemed to be very dangerous, but in fact, if he kept a high level of vigilance, there was nothing to be afraid of. Now that he was extremely relaxed, it seemed dangerous, but in fact, nothing happened. Probably in a sense, Chen Guang might be the first weirdo in the history of the world who was worried about the safety of others because he was targeted by the killer. The first day of filming passed without any surprises or mishaps. They mainly recorded the various challenges of other strongmen in the corridors, such as pulling a truck with one hand, lifting a car with one arm, carrying several adult men in a tug-of-war, and so on. These were the common methods of some ordinary Guinness programs or Hercules programs, and there was nothing special about them. If they only relied on these scenes, the fate of this program would basically be no different from the fate of the previous 3 episodes. Even the other people who were recording the program with them were not very optimistic. If it weren't for the fact that the person who invited them was Chen Guang, that the task was directly arranged by the higher-ups, and that they had the opportunity to compete with Chen Guang, these top strong men from all over the world and the Olympic champions of the Chinese weightlifting team would not have come to participate in this program. But after a whole day of recording, except for the bus that Chen Guang took on the way here, the guests did not see anyone else. Not only that, but even the recording plan was temporarily adjusted. The competition that many guests had been looking forward to did not appear, and it was all a one-man show. Although there were also cheers from the audience, it was always a little less interesting, and it seemed very fake. Although they had long heard that variety shows nowadays were not like the past, and had become various kinds of editing and gluing, all for the program effect. But when this kind of thing really happened to them, they still felt very vexed. When they thought that Chen Guang's scenes would be integrated into the whole program one by one, they thought that the audience would be fooled by the seemingly seamless editing, and they would think that they were really competing with him, but in fact, it was just the effect of the editing. They felt very disgusted. How was this a competition? It was clearly a fraud. Sigh, I thought we could compete with Superman, but it turns out that it's actually like this. That's right, fraud. It seems that Superman is no different from those celebrities who rely on hype. You can't say that. I have carefully studied his previous programs, and they don't seem to be fake. But this time, I don't know what he took wrong, but he suddenly wants to compete with us. This is completely different from what he did in the past. That's right, how strong a person is can be seen from his body. How can he compete with us with that head of his? Don't you know that he used to be the champion of the world arm wrestling competition? We know, but so what? You can't possibly think that people will cooperate with him in that kind of international competition, right? That won't happen, but we are competing with the strength of the whole body. Just like when we pull a truck, we not only rely on wrist strength and arm strength, but also the strength of the waist and legs. There are many arm wrestling masters with unstable lower bodies. A few years ago, I once wrestled with a foreign champion, and he was thrown out with his eyes closed. It was not a problem at all. That's true. Then it feels like we have become his background? Do we have to go against our conscience to promote him? I don't know what you think, but anyway, I feel this way, and it's quite unpleasant. If it wasn't for the head office specifically talking to me before we left, I really didn't want to do this. I'm so disappointed. When I go back, I'll tell my nephew to stop worshipping him. Boring, really boring. This person, once he has money and status, he will become bad, and he will think of such empty tricks. I think he is at his wit's end, but he still needs a good reputation, so he came up with this fraud. Why bother? Isn't his movie quite popular now? Who knows, the world of the rich is so *king complicated. Forget it, forget it. Anyway, the appearance fee he gives is high enough, and the team also has subsidies. We can't afford to offend him, so just talk to him in private, don't gossip outside. I know, but look at those foreign strongmen over there, they are not as sensible as us. Do you want to go and say hello to them? Forget it, we are not his lackeys, it's not worth it to run errands for him. We just want these international friends full of a sense of justice to expose all the fraud and shameless acts. Chen Guang, who was being criticized in all kinds of ways in private, spent the whole day lying on the beach chair that Chu Zijin sent over. Originally, he was supposed to cooperate with the other guests to finish the recording today, but after the adjustment of the recording plan, his scenes were all moved to tomorrow. He also knew that the guests would more or less have opinions, and if he encountered this kind of thing, he would also be unhappy, but he had no choice. Putting himself in their shoes, it was completely understandable for others to have opinions. Chapter 1147. Why don't you come with us from the start tomorrow morning? After today, everyone will have some opinions about it. That night, Chen Guang still did not go to the hotel where Chu Zijin and the others were staying. Instead, he chose to have a conference call with Chu Zijin at another hotel on the other side of Langfang County. Chen Guang stood in front of the window. There's no hurry. We'll talk about tomorrow's matters tomorrow. You should stick to the original plan for the time being. It'd be best if I can compress the recording time a little. It'd be best if it can be controlled within an hour. Chu Zijin finally could not help but ask, didn't you say that the bounty matter is not a threat to you? But I keep feeling that something is wrong with you today. Chen Guang sighed. It doesn't affect me, but you guys are not me, right? Chu Zijin thought for a moment and suddenly came to a realization. I see. Why don't we change the filming time? We can reshoot your scenes after your matter is resolved. That's too much trouble. We should finish filming the 4th episode as soon as possible and let the show air again. I'm also very anxious about this matter. Why is there the sound of wind on your side? Aren't you in your room? What's wrong? From the phone, Chu Zijin first heard the whistling sound of wind and then a loud bang. She was shocked. Chen Guang's calm voice came from the phone. It's nothing. I just went out and suddenly wanted to go for a night jog to stretch my muscles. Night jog? Stretch my muscles? That's right. Life is about exercise. Alright, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. See you tomorrow. After Chen Guang finished speaking, he did not wait for Chu Zijin to reply and hung up the phone with a snap. Of course, he would not go for a night jog for no reason. At this moment, he was traversing the streets of Langfang County at an extremely terrifying speed, like a ghost. Even the newly upgraded high-definition high-speed Skynet camera could not capture his figure at all. After waiting bitterly for several days, and today was even more frightening. Finally, the person he was waiting for had arrived. He did not know which unlucky organization it was. In short, the moment he opened the curtains and looked outside, he keenly caught a prying gaze. This gaze was at least 1,000 meters away from him. It came from a small hill in the distance. Someone was looking at his window with binoculars. If it was in the past, he wouldn't have been able to detect the spying from so far away. But things were different now. His spiritual energy was stronger than before. As the Earth explosion, he was constantly absorbing the power of the Earth element in the world, which made his connection with everything in this world even closer. When he was fully focused on himself and raised his alertness and acuity to the highest, his sixth sense would become extremely terrifying. He would be able to sense even the slightest movement. Not to mention being spied on by a killer with binoculars. Even if a sparrow turned its head to look at him from a few hundred meters away, he would be able to turn around and glare at the sparrow. Not good. I've been found. On the top of a hill 1,000 meters away, a tall white man in a black suit threw away the binoculars in his hand and cursed at the communicator in front of him. Then, he quickly and methodically packed the big thing he had just assembled into the cello case. You idiot. What the hell is wrong with you? Didn't I tell you that this Qinguang is not ordinary and that you have to be careful? Honey Badger, don't you know me? I've never been so careful before. I was watching him with binoculars from 1,000 meters away. But just as I raised the binoculars, he suddenly jumped out of the window. I don't know what happened. Jumped out of the window? Yes, he jumped out of the window. He jumped out of the window from the 8th floor. He should be coming straight for me now. Then why aren't you running? Aren't I packing my things now? It's a distance of 1,000 meters. He won't be able to get there so quickly. It's not a straight line from where he is to where I am. There are many alleys in between. Strictly speaking, it's at least 2,000 meters. No. Fox, run. You don't know how fast he is. Can he be faster than me packing my gun? I'm a professional. I only need 30 seconds. No, no, no. Fox, you're too careless. Throw away your damn gun and run without looking back. How is that possible? This is my beloved baby. This is my brother. He's my comrade and partner. The Caucasian man named Fox expressed his feelings for his comrade to the man on the walkie-talkie as he slammed the box shut. Although Fox and the honey badger were talking non-stop, he did not slow down in packing his things. He said 30 seconds, and he meant it. The honey badger said helplessly, okay, but you should hurry up and leave. You've been exposed. Leave China first. We have to make a new plan. This $100 million is not that easy to get. No problem. Fox's hand shook and he threw the cello box on his back. Then, he exclaimed, F***CK. Damn it. What's wrong now? The honey badger asked loudly through the walkie-talkie. Fox silently picked up the walkie-talkie and stared straight ahead with eyes as sharp as a falcon's. He slowly whispered, he's here. What? 30 seconds? The honey badger on the other side of the walkie-talkie was also shocked. Fox looked at the figure in the darkness that was one size smaller than him, but he could feel the infinite pressure coming from it. Yes, 30 seconds. I have to die. Die? The honey badger on the other side asked subconsciously, but the walkie-talkie was already busy. Fox casually threw the walkie-talkie aside and tried to adjust his breathing, trying to make himself look calmer. However, his slightly trembling fingers betrayed the shock and fear in his heart. My God, a 2-kilometer journey in 30 seconds. What did this mean? It meant that Qinguang rushed over from where he jumped out of the window at an average speed of 66 meters per second, which was 240 kilometers per hour. How was this possible? But it was true. He was going crazy. Fox thought to himself, what kind of person am I facing? Why would I be stupid enough to try to kill such a person? $100 million bounty? No matter how much money it was, he had to be alive to take it. As the trump card of the trump cards of the higher animals, and one of the top 10 killers in the world, Fox had always been known for his strong psychological quality. He almost never felt fear. Having been a professional killer for 15 years, it was not that Fox had never encountered dangerous situations. He had even safely escaped from the pursuit of more than 50 police officers. He had even had 3 guns pointed at his head at a very close distance, but he was still the one who had the last laugh. But inexplicably, looking at the dark shadow in the night, this time he could not control his emotions at all. Even though he could not see the other's eyes, Fox subconsciously felt that it must be a pair of eyes that could eat people, revealing a lingering coldness. But the strange thing was, the moment when he appeared was the moment when he let his guard down the most. Why did he not directly make a move? Who are you? As expected of Fox. Even though his heart was beating wildly out of control, his tone was still very calm. There was even a hint of doubt in his tone, as if he was a camping artist who had suddenly bumped into a stranger. Coupled with the cello case on his back, it really was a little bit interesting. If it was someone else, they would definitely be fooled by him, but unfortunately, the person he was facing was Chen Guang, who had just been recognized by the whole world for his acting skills. Chen Guang, the world's #1 actor in human history, was crazily worshipped by countless performing arts practitioners all over the world. With his three-legged cat skills, he was even more miserable than the sun monkey in front of the Buddha. Chen Guang almost laughed out loud. Keep pretending, keep pretending. Chen Guang mercilessly laughed at this miserable killer who came to eat poisonous crabs. You really have 8 lifetimes of bad luck to fall into my hands. I really don't know you. If there's nothing else, I have to leave here. It's late at night and the public security in China is not very good. Sir, you also have to pay more attention to your safety. Fox hid his hands behind his back and then tried to leave from the side as if nothing had happened. I am very careful about my own safety, that's why I came here. What about you? It's a dark and windy night, a foreigner like you came to this mountain, what are you doing? Come on, make up a nice story and let me hear it. Chen Guang said with great interest. Fox's steps forward slightly paused. He vaguely had an illusion that Chen Guang seemed to be playing with him like a cat playing with a mouse. He had encountered this kind of thing before, and not just once, but in the past, it was always him who tortured and killed the targets that were targeted. In the past, he played the cat, but this time, he was the mouse. I don't understand what you are talking about. I am just a travel photographer. Look, this is my camera, Canon Invincible Rabbit, a very classic model. Desperate, Fox still refused to give up. He said this in a calm tone and took out a satchel from his waist. It was a common SLR camera bag. Of course, in fact, it was not the Invincible Rabbit, but the famous M500 with a shortened barrel. Produced by Smith & Wesson, it was known as the Palm Cannon, and its power was twice that of the famous Desert Eagle. Chen Guang seemed to be unaware of the danger. He stretched out his hand to block his way and said with a grin, Invincible Rabbit? Photographer? That's a good story. So, are you here to take pictures of this night scene? Fox also looked relaxed and slightly turned his head to tidy up his satchel. Of course, the night scene of Huaxia County is very beautiful and brightly lit. This is the crystallization of modern civilization. I am committed to photographing the cultural landscape of Huaxia. Next month, I will hold my personal photography exhibition in London. At that time, photography enthusiasts throughout England will be able to have a new understanding of the civilization of Huaxia through my photography exhibition. I really like this beautiful country, and I want to introduce China's civilization to the world. Well, I really have to leave. Nice to meet you. Chen Guang couldn't help clapping at Su Tao's ability to make up stories. Great. Your story is great. But I'm not happy to meet you. On the contrary, I'm very unhappy now. As he said that, Chen Guang took a step forward and stood in front of Fox once again. This time, he completely blocked his way. Fox's eyebrows slightly furrowed. Chinese, are you trying to pick a fight? If you do this again, I will call the police. In your country, your actions will bring you trouble. I am a foreigner. Chen Guang smiled brightly. All right. That's enough acting. It's a pity. If you don't die here today, you can really become an outstanding actor. The money you earn won't be less than being a killer. I really regret it. Rude Huaxia people. Shut up. I don't understand what you mean at all. Get out of my way. Fox roared angrily. Chen Guang shrugged. My ears are better than you think. My friend named Fox, were you chatting with second brother from Africa just now? Fox's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't continue acting. My name is not Fox. Not Fox. My name is Wiseman. Also, I don't understand what you mean by second brother from Africa. Second brother from Africa is called a honey badger in China. Do you understand? Honey badgers are creatures that overestimate themselves and are not afraid of death. They even dare to take the initiative to attack lions, just like what you did this time. Chen Guang suddenly retracted the smile on his face and spoke coldly. Fox looked like he was gradually losing control. He stomped his feet and took out his phone with his left hand, pretending to make a call. You lunatic. I will call the police now. I know that the police number in China is 110. Bang! A loud sound was heard. It turned out that while he pretended to make a call with his left hand, his right hand had secretly taken out an M500 and aimed at Chen Guang's chest. Unfortunately, nothing happened. Just like how he caught the Glock bullet with 2 fingers on the plane, this time, Chen Guang used his right index finger and thumb to gently pinch the M500's 3,517 joule kinetic energy 12.7 mm magram bullet as if he was pinching a pinch of sugar. The fox was completely dumbfounded. Although he had seen it in a video before, he knew that it could be real. But this was an M500. The king of handguns. How did he do it? Besides, if he could catch the M500 bullet at such a close distance, it seemed like the big guy in the cello case on my back couldn't do anything to him no matter how far away we were. Are you still human? Chen Guang looked at him calmly, then turned to look at the bullet in his hand. What an amazing cameraman. Can we talk now? After saying that, Chen Guang didn't give Fox a chance to talk. He kicked him in the chest with lightning speed, sending him flying. He even flew over the top of the mountain and landed on the mountain below. When Fox was kicked by Chen Guang's right foot, it was as if he had been electrocuted. All the strength in his body was instantly sucked out. He couldn't even move his fingers. Fox was floating in the air when his body trembled. Chen Guang had actually caught up to him. Chen Guang grabbed his collar with his right hand while his left hand casually reached to the side and took out his M500. Fox screamed, "I'm falling." Chen Guang ignored him. Instead, he looked at the M500 in his hand. Your invincible rabbit looks really unique, Fox friend. Hearing the wind whistling in his ears, Fox's heart was like dead ashes. He was unwilling and wanted to struggle, but he knew that he was dead for sure. From the moment Chen Guang jumped out of the window, he had no chance. Even if he didn't waste those 30 seconds, he wouldn't be able to escape. Alright, perhaps from the moment he accepted this mission, he was destined to end up like this. Chapter 1148. The two of them continued to fall rapidly. Fox, who was familiar with the terrain here, knew that they were falling at a height of at least 10 meters, 3 stories high. If a normal person fell like this, even if they did not die, they would be left paralyzed. It would be Jesus if they could still move their fingers. However, Fox knew that Chen Guang would definitely be fine. He had jumped straight down from the 8th floor, smashed a big hole in the ground, and ran over to him as if nothing had happened. Oh right, it was a speed of 240 kilometers per hour, twice as fast as the cheetah, the fastest living creature on Earth. Flying in the air, Fox thought of another partner in the same organization as him. Well, it was the guy codenamed Cheetah. He was known for his running speed, his movements were extremely agile, and he even had the confidence to compete with Usain Bolt in short-distance outbursts. His ambush was deep and full of murderous intent. His nickname of Cheetah was well-deserved, and he was also the top killer in the entire Higher Animals organization, second only to himself. However, compared to Chen Guang, he was not even qualified to carry Chen Guang's shoes. There was a living person running twice as fast as a real cheetah. This completely violated the common sense of biology and physics. Well, that's not important anymore. What's important is how I should survive now. This thought ran through Fox's mind crazily. After his hands were stained with blood, when he suddenly fell into an incomparably desperate situation, Fox, who had thought that he was no longer afraid of death, inexplicably had a strong desire to survive. He finally vaguely understood the pain and fear of the targets who had struggled and begged for mercy under his knife. He also finally understood the unwillingness of every target who had fallen to the ground after being hit in a vital spot by his sniper rifle as they struggled to survive. Of course, his benevolent self would always quietly watch them die, and in his heart, he would say, "God will forgive me." "Oh right, we're about to land." Just now, when Guang jumped off the building, he protected himself very well. Now, he should be protecting me, right? He must want to get some useful information from me, right? Boom. Just as Fox was thinking about this, he first heard the loud sound of Guang's feet stepping on the ground, and then he was still falling. Fox's eyes widened as he sucked in a deep breath. He could only see that the ground was getting closer and closer to his eyes. Before that, his feet had already hit the ground. Bursts of electric shocks began to rapidly spread from his toes. This strange sensation was even faster than the pain. Fox's ears could even hear the crunching sound of bones being crushed. His face was getting closer and closer to the soil. The fragrance of the soil assaulted his nostrils. It was very similar to the smell of the soil covering the funeral of one of his targets. I'm going to die. Just as this thought popped up in Fox's mind, he felt a strong pulling force coming from behind him. He was thankful for the excellent quality of his combat uniform. Even though his neck was almost broken by the collar and his ribs were almost crushed, he still didn't land on his face and survived. However, this was not good news. After being kicked by Guang, he had inexplicably lost all his strength. Now, at least a third of his bones were broken, so he could not hope to use any means to fight back. With a clatter, Guang let go of Fox's clothes, letting him fall to the ground like a dead dog. The air was quiet for about 10 seconds before Guang kicked Fox. "All right, stop pretending to be dead, Fox from Ford. F***CK. I don't make cars." Fox was about to collapse. He could clearly protect himself, but he deliberately broke all his bones just now. Now he's even making fun of me. Guang squatted down and looked at this guy from top to bottom. "Well, Mr. Fox, tell me the name of your organization." "I already know 2 names. One is you, and the other is Second Brother from Africa. Save some time. There aren't many chances for you to say your last words. Actually, even if you don't say it, I should be able to find out who you are. Since you don't plan to let me go, why should I tell you?" The fox groaned in despair. "I've never seen someone interrogating a prisoner like this. You should at least give me some hope of survival so that you can pry open my mouth." Guang shrugged. "If I say that I'll let you go after you confess everything, would you believe me?" Fox was silent, then he grimaced and squeezed out a smile that was uglier than crying. "I don't believe you." Guang simply sat down cross-legged. "That's it. So I might as well tell you directly that you're dead. But if you're honest, I can let you die a quick death. Besides, you should have seen the video of Schultz from American Airlines. Don't be afraid to tell you. I have a way to make you speak like Schultz, very relaxed and casual. You can't hide any secrets from me. Come, let's make a long story short. What's the name of your organization? I'll give you a quick death. I don't think there's any poison in your teeth. You've never failed a mission before, and you don't have the courage or preparation to commit suicide. Yes, I've never failed, but I didn't expect that my first failure would be so miserable. No, you're not miserable at all. I can see a strong smell of blood in your pupils. You must have killed a lot of people before, so it's only right that you die a violent death." Fox was silent, and his mind was in turmoil. "Forget it. I'm going to die anyway. Why should I keep a secret? Let me reintroduce myself. I'm the #1 killer of the Higher Animals Organization, Fox." Guang laughed. "Higher Animals? Your organization's name is really unique. This is a good start. You should be feeling pain by now. After all, you've broken so many bones. Okay, let's continue. We'll speed up the pace and let you suffer a little less. Where did you get the mission, and who issued the mission? The dark web. Your name is there, and every top killer can accept the mission. We don't know the information of the publisher, and we don't need to know. Chen Guang interrupted him. I know about the dark web. Your information is meaningless to me. Say something useful. You don't need to know the client's information, but you seem to be stronger than ordinary killers. So, you should know some information about the dark web, right? Who established the dark web? Where's the headquarters? Where's the database? Fox tilted his head and looked at him. Sir, do you think I'll know? Chen Guang silently stretched out his hand. Then there's no other way. Have you heard of a kind of punishment? It's called 1,000 cuts. It's to tear off a person's flesh piece by piece, but you don't let the person die. In the end, the person being interrogated will only be left with a skeleton. Then, there will be a creaking sound, but he won't die. Let me tell you something else. Do you know why I'm so strong? I have a method. You foreigners call it Chinese Kung Fu. Some people believe it and some don't. But I have to tell you that it's true. When I kicked you in the chest just now, I injected my internal energy into your body and then blocked your 7 meridians and 8 meridians. Well, you may not understand what 7 meridians and 8 meridians are, but it's basically blocking your blood flow. It's like using a plug to block your blood vessels. Of course, you won't have any strength. This method can be used to subdue you, but it can also be used to save your life. Do you want to see your own skeleton wobbling? Fox swallowed hard. I really don't know the inside story of the dark web, but our leader, Honey Badger, once told me his speculation. Don't treat me like this. I'll tell you everything. Okay, go ahead. The dark web is actually not a real organization. It's a platform built by all the killer organizations that have reached a certain level in the world. The dark web doesn't have a fixed server. Instead, it's built using the idle server resources in countless gray areas all over the world. But because it doesn't have a fixed server, it's almost impossible to destroy the website. In addition, there's no background data. The employer only posts the mission information one by one. There's no backup. Chen Guang wondered, how do you pay me? In the modern world, it's hard to keep any large cash flow completely secret, right? Sir, have you heard of Bitcoin? D*MN, you guys use Bitcoin? That's not it. The dark web uses another currency similar to Bitcoin. It can bypass all surveillance. Chen Guang shrugged. Okay, I understand. It seems that I can't get any information about the dark web and the mission issuer from you. Yes, I've told you everything I know. Chen Guang stood up, looked at his watch, and then looked down at Fox. You have 5 minutes to say your last words. Actually, it wasn't that he was soft-hearted. He also knew that villains died because they talked too much. Although this guy was a killer who came to assassinate him, his current position and appearance made him look like a villain in a movie. Giving him a chance to say his last words was actually to let him say something nice before he died. Maybe he could get more information out of this guy. The soul snatch was Chen Guang's trump card, but he used it more to bluff people. He couldn't use it easily. The last time he dealt with a weakling like Schultz, he was so tired that he fell asleep. If he used it on a well-trained killer with a strong will, Chen Guang felt that he could pass out on the spot. If he fainted, so be it. Even if someone took the opportunity to launch a sneak attack at him with a Gatling gun for half an hour, it wouldn't be a big deal. However, there were many perverted killers since ancient times. What if it wasn't enough to kill him and wanted to kill someone else? When that happened, he wouldn't know anything. When he woke up, he would see corpses all over the place. Who could he reason with? So, he tried not to use the soul snatch if possible. Mr. Chen, do I have to die? Why won't you let me go? If you let me go back alive. Chen Guang interrupted him. Are you kidding me? You came to kill me, and now you're begging me to let you go? Even if you're as weak as a rabbit in front of me, you really want to kill me. Do you think a tiger will let go of a rabbit that wants to kill it? Besides, someone should have said something similar to you before, right? Did you let them go? You only have 4 minutes and 30 seconds left. Hurry up. You can ask your headquarters for help, or something else. You can ask your companions to avenge you, but don't let me go. Fox was silent for a few seconds, then said, You're a madman. If I let you go or kill you, it won't change anything. Since you've already set your eyes on the 100 million bounty, of course, you won't give up easily. Even if you give up, others will take over. That's not a small number. $100 million. You can get it just by killing someone. Isn't it easy? Aren't you afraid? My companions won't let you go. They won't be as careless as me next time. Chen Guang rolled his eyes. I don't care about your threats. Do you know about the broken world? I know. Do you know that the broken world is gone? I know. But do you know who did it? Fox nodded subconsciously. I know. It's the Chinese military. Chen Guang shook his head and waved his finger. No, that's just what we said to the public. We don't want to scare you. What do you mean? To be precise, it was me. I alone. I killed them all. Chen Guang pointed at himself shamelessly. But he wasn't bragging. He was the one who did it in the punishment world. The difference was that he used the Earth Elemental Controller Right Chen's method in the punishment world. The scene was grand but not as bloody. The fox's eyes widened in disbelief. He didn't believe what Chen Guang said at all. But his subconscious told him that it was most likely true. Actually, he wasn't one of the top 10 assassins in the world in the past. His ranking was around 20. He only became one of the top 10 after the broken world was destroyed. The broken world status in the world of assassins and what kind of strength he had was needless to say. The destruction of the broken world had caused quite a commotion. Many people in the same profession speculated that the Chinese military had used extreme methods. After all, they didn't even hide the fact that they had crossed the border. Today, Fox finally heard the truth from Chen Guang. He was shocked and couldn't accept it. On the other side, Chen Guang continued, so feel free to let your companions take revenge. The more the better. I'll kill as many as they come. Do you want to become enemies with all the assassins in the world? Chen Guang said indifferently. It's not that I want to. It's just that I've always done it. It's just that I didn't have time to deal with you in the past. If you don't provoke me, I won't bother. Fox clenched his teeth. Why would you think that? There's no reason. I've never felt any pity for people in your profession. Since you guys rely on robbing others of their lives to earn money, you should die a violent death. Since you guys have designs on my life because of the $100 million bounty, I can't just sit and wait for death. Fine, I won't die, but I'm annoyed. So, I hope that you guys come quickly and in large numbers. If 100 come, I'll kill 100. If 1,000 come, I'll kill 1,000. If 10,000 come, I'll kill 10,000. 100,000, a million, it doesn't make a difference to me. Chen Guang said calmly. It's best if I can kill all the assassins in one go. That way, I'll have an easier time, right? Fox sucked in a breath of cold air. You're the real butcher. In a sense, my hands are indeed stained with blood. So, I don't mind taking more lives. Send a message to your headquarters. I don't care what your organization's ranking is or how many experts you have. I only care how many people will come to die. Chen Guang's tone became more and more indifferent as he spoke. He didn't want to admit it, but after arranging the Glorious Shields operation, his mentality had become a bit off. He had been restraining the killing intent in his heart. he just wanted to focus on the matter in front of him. But his restraint had been a bit out of control on the way to Langfang County with Chu Zijin this morning. And tonight, this so-called high-level animal organization fox had appeared in front of him. After smelling the blood on his body, he had become even more out of control. You seem to hate us, but haven't you ever thought that an assassin's life is also a life? We're just a profession that takes people's money to eliminate disasters. This is just an ordinary profession. Fox didn't know where he got his courage from, but he actually tried to defend the assassins. He suddenly felt that he was representing the entire world's assassin community, negotiating with the devil. His efforts could save the lives of countless assassins. I seem to have become noble. Chen Guang was almost amused by him. Don't you think that your words are ridiculous and laughable? I'm not a saint, and I don't have so much free time. As long as you don't provoke me, nothing will happen. But right now, my name is hanging high up on the dark web. God knows how many people are getting restless. Now you're telling me that you're just an ordinary profession? Like the street cleaners? Your shamelessness really makes me gasp in amazement. Yes, every life should be a fair existence. But no one. They can easily take other people's lives for their own benefits. I abided by this principle. So even though I'm so strong that it surpasses your understanding, I didn't take the initiative to find trouble with you after destroying the broken world. This is my self-restraint. But now the situation is different. You took the initiative to find me. It was you who ignited the flames of war. It was you who opened Pandora's box. So you have to bear the consequences. Fox was incomparably sad to find that not only could he not beat him, he couldn't even win an argument with him. After listening to his words, even he felt that assassins were unforgivable. Rather than waiting for him to kill them one by one, he might as well commit suicide. Alright, I've talked enough nonsense with you. Contact your headquarters, you don't have much time left. When Chen Guang finished speaking, he turned around and no longer bothered with Su Tao. Fox looked at Chen Guang's back for about 10 seconds and finally gave up the urge to take out the big guy from the cello case. It's no use, it's meaningless. Honey Badger, don't take revenge for me. Never accept any missions related to Chen Guang ever again. Contact our friends from Dark Shadow and Z organization and tell them to stay away from missions related to Chen Guang. 30 seconds later, Fox spoke into his special communication device and left his last words in this world. Chen Guang turned back to look at him. You made the wrong decision. Chapter 1149. When Chen Guang returned to the hotel room, it was already 10 minutes later. When he came out, he left in a hurry, but when he returned, he was leisurely as if he was taking a stroll. He did not care about what the high animal Honey Badger would decide, nor could he interfere. As for what exactly the Shadow and the Z organization that Fox mentioned just now was, it didn't make much difference to him. Just as he said, two come, two die. It was as simple as that. If others dared to stroke the tiger's whiskers, they had to be mentally prepared to be torn apart by the tiger. Chen Guang was never lenient towards assassin organizations, just like what he did to the broken world. Most assassin organizations were narrow-minded. They were allowed to kill others, but they were not allowed to kill their people. But this time, they ran into an iron plate, and it was their bad luck. When he passed by the hotel, a large group of people was gathered there, looking at the hole that he had made when he landed, chattering non-stop. The hole was 3 decimeters deep and about a meter in diameter. It looked very abrupt. Chen Guang thought to himself that his posture when he accidentally went downstairs was too cool. This caused a commotion. I moved so fast, no one should have noticed me, right? He pressed down on the brim of his cap, quietly moved forward, and hid in the crowd. I'll bet you 500. Something must have fallen here just now. That's how it could make such a big hole in the floor. A hotel employee in a security uniform said excitedly. Next to him, a man in a suit rubbed his chin. Yes, that's right, but what about the thing? Where is it? Manager, don't ask me, I don't know either. I came here when the sound came, but I didn't see anything. The manager was also puzzled. He squatted down and carefully looked at the ground. Then what's going on? Is there a recording from the surveillance? Another security guard next to him shook his head. No, I didn't see anything. I just saw this place was fine, and suddenly there was a rumble. I blinked my eyes, and the hole is here. The group of onlookers looked at each other in dismay. Everyone, including the manager, was at a loss. Did anyone notice that there are 2 marks in this hole? At this time, a seemingly knowledgeable old man next to him muttered. The security guard who spoke first replied, "We're not blind." The corners of the keeper's mouth twitched in embarrassment. But as expected of a scholar, he quickly composed himself. If we want to know what caused this hole, then we should start with these 2 marks. Seeing that his words were reasonable, the others listened attentively. The keeper's heart was filled with a sense of accomplishment. He squatted down and ran his hand over the marks on the bottom of the crater. According to my years of experience, these were 2 hard objects that struck the floor. Everyone rolled their eyes. Aren't you just spouting nonsense? We really aren't blind. The manager couldn't stand him either. These 2 hard objects should be man-made, but the strange thing is that this security brother immediately rushed to the scene, but he didn't see anything, and there was nothing in the surveillance video. The keeper didn't seem to mind the stares. Seeing that he was starting to reason again, the crowd calmed down. With that said, the keeper stood up, arched his neck, straightened his back, and paced 2 circles. His fingers twirled, as if he were telling a fortune. Everyone saw that he was acting mysteriously, but they didn't want to disturb him, so they could only follow his gaze. After a long time, when everyone was about to get dizzy, he suddenly stopped, turned around, and glared at them. "I know." "What do you know?" the manager and the security guard asked in unison. The keeper took a deep breath, and turned his head to face the crowd. His face was solemn, and he spoke with a hint of fear in his eyes. He looked up at the sky, and then at the people around him. He lowered his voice to a whisper. "Gentlemen, have you ever considered that this place is haunted? These 2 marks are actually the footprints of a ghost." The crowd subconsciously laughed in unison, expressing their disdain for the keeper's superstitious thinking. But it didn't last more than a few seconds. The crowd's thoughts began to settle, and the atmosphere grew heavy. The smiles on their faces slowly disappeared. The security guard in charge of the surveillance camera scratched his head as he tried to recall. "I've checked the video at least 3 times, and there's nothing. Then there's this hole in the ground. Did you play the video in slow motion to examine it?" The manager's face was pale, and his hair stood on end as he asked. The man continued to scratch his head. The 3rd time I played it in slow motion frame by frame. Of the 24 frames per second, there was a blurry shadow in 2 frames, but nothing else." 2 frames? The manager asked, and then began to count on his fingers. In other words, the thing hit the ground within 0.1 seconds, hit the ground, and then flew away. Although everyone felt there was something wrong with the man's analysis, they couldn't find any reason to refute it. The keeper coughed lightly, and once again focused everyone's attention on him. His voice grew darker. "Do you understand now? It's a ghost. Only a ghost can do this, slow it down, and only a ghost can avoid being caught on camera. Manager, ever since I checked into your hotel the day before yesterday, I've had the feeling there's something wrong with the feng shui here. Now it looks like I'm right. Your crouching dragon appears to be in the middle of a dragon's cave, and has the chi of the black tortoise, but in actuality..." The manager, the security guards, and the rest of the crowd were left in suspense. Actually what? When the hotel was first built, the feng shui master we had arranged for it to be like this. The keeper clapped his hands together. "In fact, it looks like you have the chi of the black tortoise, but this black tortoise isn't the real arbiter of fate, it's Yin Xian." "What's Yin Xian?" "Humans have 7 emotions and 6 desires. There's a positive and negative side, and the ancient gods also have positive and negative sides. The black tortoise that your hotel occupies is the dark side of the black tortoise's heart. It's not strange for ghosts to appear here. At this moment, Chen Guang, who was hiding in the crowd, could tell that this pedant wasn't a proper person. Don't be fooled by his words, but when he first mentioned the crouching dragon and the chi of the black tortoise, the onlookers assumed it was a result of divination. But Chen Guang sensed something familiar in the keeper's tone and expression. Yes, it was the smell of acting. She was like a professional actor who had already sketched out the lines in the script and acted with great emotion and emotion. Clearly, he was in cahoots with the other feng shui master they had hired when the hotel was first built. Echoing each other's words, their goal was to make some money from the hotel. The manager was thoroughly intimidated. "Sir, what you say makes sense, but what should we do now?" The keeper seemed to want to say something, but hesitated. He looked at the others, and the manager understood. He and the keeper turned and walked to the side. The keeper was deliberately hiding from the crowd, but he didn't know that Chen Guang had heard every word. "It's not that there isn't a way. You'll have to perform a ritual, and open a few wind gates. Let the yin energy flow out, and turn it into the yang energy, a true dragon. That way, the problem will be solved." "Sir, I understand what you mean, but this is a serious matter. I'll have to contact the boss first." "Alright, no problem. You decide. I'll be staying in Langf County for another 3 to 5 days, so make your decision as soon as possible." "Sir, where are you going?" The keeper patted the manager on the shoulder, his expression inscrutable. "Traveling the 4 seas. Heaven's secrets cannot be divulged." Chen Guang didn't intend to pay attention to these matters, but he felt his murderous aura had been too strong. He'd once thought his heart would always be as calm as a lake, unperturbed by the waves. But now it seemed that people change, especially when their status and position changed. This made him sad. The assassin's organization deserved to die, but in the past he wouldn't have been so contemptuous and dismissive of the lives of others. Assassins did deserve to die, but as the fox had said before his death, they were still people, and they had lives. Chen Guang understood that while he was talking about the equality of all living things, he had come up with an all-conquering reason to take the lives of others. It was a contradiction. Chen Guang understood that even though he was aware of the changes taking place, he couldn't control the situation. If a man could control his heart and soul in the direction he desired, then he wasn't a man, but a god. So now, Chen Guang wanted to be more grounded. How to be grounded? Exposing the scams in front of him was the only way to be grounded. Meddling in the affairs of the world would make him more human. He walked over to the manager and the keeper, took off his cap, and coughed twice. "Old gentleman, please don't pretend to be a ghost." "What kind of ghost is this?" "You're the one with a ghost in your head." The manager, on the other hand, wasn't happy. He turned to scold Chen Guang. "What do you know, kid?" "Damn, Mr. Chen. Why are you here?" The manager of course knew Chen Guang. Today, when Chen Guang had checked into the hotel, ensuring that he wasn't disturbed had become the highest priority of the hotel staff. That was why they'd been so nervous when they'd heard the commotion below. Chen Guang shrugged. "If I didn't come and take a look, you'd be tricked into selling your underwear." The keeper at the side seemed to be focused on swindling. He didn't recognize Chen Guang. Instead, he frowned and looked at Chen Guang with an unhappy expression. "Young man, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. I know you youngsters don't believe in feng shui, but that doesn't mean you have the right to deny the traditions of your ancestors. This Tao master is just trying to help this young friend solve his problem out of goodwill. Aren't you a bit lacking in manners by scolding people? Young man, there's no harm in reading more books. Understanding more about the traditions left behind by our ancestors is helpful in improving one's self-cultivation. Feng shui, physiognomy, and the Book of Changes are the wisdom left behind by our ancestors. They've been passed down for thousands of years, and they rely on genuine ability and knowledge, not on having a ghost in the head. Chen Guang didn't say anything. Instead, it was the manager who stared blankly at the keeper. The manager was greatly frightened. How ignorant and ill-informed was this old man to not recognize Chen Guang? Did he have to read more books? Old man, do you know that the person standing in front of you is currently the internationally recognized master of N materials? He is a true master. Unadulterated. If it weren't for the fact that among the martial artists of Jianghu, there was someone from the plain clothes sect who was truly proficient in feng shui and physiognomy, especially Taoist Sang Song, who was even more famous in Jianghu, Chen Guang would have almost been tricked by this old man. Of course, the most important thing was that he knew where this hole came from. Old man, what you say makes a lot of sense, but it's no use, because I know where this hole came from. The keeper laughed out loud, you know? Chen Guang nodded, that's right, I know very well. The manager at the side hesitated for a few seconds, subconsciously feeling that Chen Guang was more reliable. Mr. Chen, you should say something. Chen Guang shrugged, are you stupid? Don't you see that right above this place is my room window? The manager nodded, that's right, I know that Mr. Chen's room is above. It's on the 8th floor, our presidential suite. Chen Guang grunted, it's good that you know. I'm not afraid of you asking me for compensation. I'll tell you directly, this hole was made by me. I jumped down and smashed it. What? As he spoke, Chen Guang didn't hide anything, but rather spoke in a loud and carefree voice. The surrounding crowd of onlookers, the manager, the security guard, and the keeper were all stupefied. Pfft, ha ha ha. Young man, are you sleepwalking? The keeper laughed out loud, and then said, this Tao master has lived for more than 60 years, and I've never heard of such a preposterous and nonsensical matter. A person jumped down from the 8th floor and smashed such a big hole in the ground, and then you're telling others that this hole was made by him? Ha 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 ha. Are you an idiot or what? If what you say is true, then this Tao master also jumped down from the 8th floor and smashed a hole like this for you. Chen Guang squinted at him with interest, are you sure? The keeper nodded heavily, a gentleman's word. In order to swindle this hotel, he and his accomplices had painstakingly planned for half a month. Originally, they wouldn't have been so anxious, but today was a heaven-sent opportunity. How could he let it slip by? Of course, he wouldn't cower. Chen Guang opened his mouth wide, forming an O shape, and then said, a promise cannot be taken back. But what if you can't do it? You'll fall to the 8th floor and become minced meat. If I can't do it, then this Tao master will kneel on the ground and crawl like a dog. Bark like a dog. All night long. The old swindler threw caution to the wind. He couldn't be exposed by this young man he didn't know. Chen Guang laughed, that's fine, old sir. Give me a minute, I'll give you a few postures. Before going upstairs, Chen Guang called out to the manager and the others. Hey, everyone, get your phones ready. Mr. Chen, what are you doing? Don't mess around. Chen Guang shrugged, jumping off a building. What? Hearing this, everyone jumped in fright. However, Chen Guang's face was calm. Didn't he say he didn't believe me? Wouldn't it be fine if I just jumped again? It's like drinking soup. It's not a big deal. Later, make sure I look more handsome. It wasn't until Chen Guang went upstairs that the manager's mind reacted in a daze. He remembered a video he had watched a few days ago that had gone viral on the internet. He caught the bullet with his finger. It seemed he was for real. Chapter 1150. What if he fell to his death? This terrible thought silently arose in the minds of many people present, but they were not sure, so they could not think of stopping Chen Guang. After all, many people had seen the video of him catching a bullet with 2 fingers. If what happened in the video was true, then it seemed understandable that he could jump from the 8th floor and come out unscathed. In addition, the manager and security guards were also wondering if they had the ability to stop what Chen Guang had decided to do. After all, he was the man with the strongest wrist strength in the world. Who could really stop him if he wanted to do something? They could only call the police and let the police stop him, but it was too late now. Speaking of which, it was unlikely that a famous person like Chen Guang, who had money, power, and a sister, would commit suicide with a hole in his brain. He was not stupid. There was only one explanation for this. He really had experience in things like jumping off a building. Hey, why aren't you guys going to stop him? Are you really going to let this idiot jump off a building? What if he falls to his death? The old liar was not in a hurry at all. He said leisurely with his hands crossed. He did not believe that Chen Guang would really jump. The manager could not help but ask, "Old sir, you really don't know him?" The old liar had his hands behind his back like an expert and was very arrogant. This Tao master has always been obsessed with learning, determined to save others and myself, and fight against the heavens. Where would I have the time to pay attention to celebrities? This Tao master is already so old. Is it strange that I don't know a young man? I want to say something to you guys. If you have nothing to do, pay more attention to useful things. Don't waste time on those little fresh meats. Celebrities are also people. There's nothing special about them. Stop chasing them and do more work. This kid, how old is he? He doesn't have hair on his mouth, and he can't do things properly. What does he know? If the old liar was ridiculing some other celebrity, he might really be able to pull in a lot of like-minded people. Unfortunately, his target was Chen Guang. His words, which he thought were reasonable and well-founded, could only quickly collapse the reclusive expert image he had built in the minds of everyone. The more conceited he was and the more he looked down on Chen Guang, the more ignorant and foolish he seemed. The manager couldn't help but take out his phone. "Sir, let me show you a video. You'll understand after you watch it." What strange things. This Tao master isn't interested. Although the old liar said that, his eyes involuntarily drifted to the screen of the manager's mobile phone. On it was Chen Guang's Weibo, and the video that was opened was the best video of him catching bullets with 2 fingers on the American Airlines plane. It was from a netizen named LOL2333, who was on the plane. Suddenly, the manager's phone rang out. A shot had been fired from inside. After that, the old liar's eyes widened uncontrollably as he stared at Chen Guang's 2 fingers in the video in a daze, just like every other person who saw the video for the first time. What is this? Look, it's this Mr. Chen Guang himself who was provoked by the police in the United States. After the policeman's pistol went off, he used 2 fingers to catch the bullet. The old liar gulped silently, not knowing what kind of expression he should wear to face this situation. Seeing that he had finally subdued him, the manager said proudly, "Because of this, he even represented us Chinese to sue the American airline. It won't be long before he goes to court. I heard that he'll have to pay at least 100 million. The old liar's attention immediately shifted to the 100 million. No matter how terrifying the scene before him was, it was not as ear-piercing as the word 100 million. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "How is that possible? 100 million. Don't try to bluff me." The manager shrugged. "It's 100 million, and it's in US dollars, not RMB. The old liar was completely dumbfounded this time. In just a few seconds, he had suffered 2 major blows in a row. It was a devastating blow to his outlook on life. There was actually someone in this world who could catch a bullet with his fingers? And this person was about to get 100 million US dollars. It seems like I've already offended this person. Just as the old liar's superficial knowledge was instantly shattered, Chen Guang's voice came from above everyone's heads. "Hey! Set up your phones and get ready to record. I'm going to jump." The manager was looking at the old liar with a look of disdain. When he heard the voice above him, he quickly turned around, raised his phone, and said, "Okay. Mr. Chen, are you really okay? F***CK. The manager found that Chen Guang's head was not poking out from the window of his suite on the 8th floor, but from the edge of the rooftop on the 10th floor. He really did not expect that Chen Guang would not be satisfied with jumping from the 8th floor to go all the way up to the rooftop. The other security guards and the gradually growing crowd of onlookers also cried out in surprise. They had forgotten that there was actually a huge difference between the 8th floor and the 10th floor. Anyway, if an ordinary person fell down like this, there was no need to chop them up and they could just be made into pissing beef balls. Mr. Chen, don't mess around. The 10th floor is too high. Okay, Mr. Chen, we believe that you really made this hole. Hurry up and come down. Mr. Chen, you're so rich. Don't take things too hard. Chen Guang did not mind. He laughed out loud and replied, don't panic, you guys. I'm very familiar with jumping off a building. I have a special technique for jumping off a building. The crowd did not even want to ridicule him anymore. Which wild child would treat something like jumping off a building as if it was waking up early in the morning? What special technique do you mean? You're even familiar with it. What's your proficiency level? Chen Guang stared at the old liar again. Keep a close eye on that old liar. Don't let him get away. I'll have to carry him upstairs and throw him down later. Everyone, spread out a little. I'm going to jump. And so, under the crowd's shocked, confused, doubtful, or dumbfounded gazes, Chen Guang first stood on the low wall of the rooftop, then spread out his arms, turned around, and jumped fiercely from behind. His posture was especially relaxed and elegant. Under the illumination of the moonlight and lights, he looked like a dancing elf in the dark. A young man in the crowd was a veteran Assassin's Creed player. When he saw Chen Guang's familiar posture, he was the first to exclaim, "Leap of faith." But very soon, his thoughts were overturned. Chen Guang, who was flying in the air, stretched his limbs to his heart's content. Then, he started spinning. Leap of faith didn't spin. Somersault in the air. This was the exclamation of another diving enthusiast. Then, under the crowd's dumbfounded gaze, Chen Guang spun as he rapidly descended to the ground. His spinning speed was getting faster and faster, even creating a whistling sound. Boom! The moment before he landed, Chen Guang accurately spun until his feet were facing the ground. Then, with a violent shake, the floor emitted a sound like a directional explosion. In the billowing smoke and dust, Chen Guang landed perfectly in a half-squatting position. His body was curled up, and his hands were pressed down, but they didn't really touch the ground. The air stagnated for a few seconds. Then, Chen Guang stood up, opened his hands, and raised his palms like a gymnast. Then, he turned around and looked at the crowd. What do you think? I said I did it. Do you all believe me now? Only then did the crowd react, and they all looked down at his body. Damn, a new pit that was even bigger than the first one. It was at least 1/2 meter deep, and the diameter of the surrounding cracked and sunken pit was at least 2 meters. This guy actually acted as if nothing had happened to him. He was crazy. The diving enthusiast's lips trembled. He raised his phone high and aimed the camera at Chen Guang. His teeth were chattering, and he said in a trembling voice, "Crazy, completely crazy. What did I see? This is a back somersault in the air, 4.5 turns, and a half jumps, off a building? 10 points. Perhaps the others were also infected by him. No one knew who was the first to follow him. 10 points. 10 points. 10 points. 10 points. 10 points. 10 points. Except for the old liar, who was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground, the others all had fanatical smiles on their faces, and one after another, they shouted 10 points. They were like the judges at the Olympic Games. Chen Guang looked at these people's phones with satisfaction. He was very satisfied with the effect. He thought to himself that they would definitely post this video on Weibo. In the past, he was afraid that people would find out about these unusual things about him. But now, it was different from the past. He couldn't keep a low profile anymore. He just wanted to be more high profile. The more eyeballs popped out, the better. He wanted everyone to be shocked into a daze. It was rare for him to meddle in other people's business today, and he could also promote his pair of Gale God legs. It was quite good. Although the chances were not high, what if the flesh god statue was completed naturally? Even if it couldn't be completed, he could still take one step closer to his goal. In particular, the audience at the venue was very cooperative. They were very professional and very skilled. Those who did not know better would have thought that they were fake reviewers that he had hired in advance. This made Chen Guang even more satisfied. Chen Guang personally enjoyed the comments about somersaulting in all directions and half-turning in all directions. Looking at the flashing cameras on the phones in front of him, he had the illusion of facing countless reporters after winning glory for the country in the Olympics. I'm undoubtedly the best of the show. Everyone was pleasantly surprised, except for the old liar. The old liar really wanted to run away, but he felt that his legs had no strength, and that annoying manager kept tugging at his clothes. The old liar was very angry. He only wanted to curse. To hell with you. Should we add a jumping event to the Olympics? If we add a 10-meter platform, the ultimate challenge would be a 30-meter platform like this? Every year, a bunch of athletes would die in the Olympics, right? The old liar felt that his talent for roasting had been awakened inexplicably. Just as Chen Guang's thanks ended, the diving enthusiast went up to him with his phone. Mr. Chen, can I interview you? This was an old Weibo user. He knew that he was facing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to shoot an explosive video. At least 1 billion people around the world wanted to ride on Chen Guang's popularity, but none of them had the chance. Now that fate had favored him and the opportunity was right in front of him, whether or not he could grasp it better depended on this moment. Chen Guang was very satisfied with this guy's cooperation. Of course, he would return the favor and nodded. Of course. How do you feel now that you've just completed such a magnificent feat? Chen Guang cleared his throat. He felt that he should show more depth and not be so superficial. He had to show his professionalism and knowledge. Besides, this was not a magnificent feat at all. It was sloppy and ordinary, like drinking soup. This is not difficult at all. This is the result of my many years of training. Hard work will always be rewarded. Chen Guang spoke confidently in front of the many mobile phone cameras in front of him, as if he was holding a press conference. As we all know, diving is a very dangerous sport, especially when the height exceeds a certain level. Even if it's a 3-meter diving platform, if a person lands flat on the water, the consequences will be very serious. If the height reaches 10 meters, it will be even more dangerous. If it's light, the skin will be torn, and if it's heavy, the internal organs will rupture. It will be life-threatening. Many of the onlookers, who were holding their phones and acting as reporters, nodded. That's right. That's right. Chen Guang continued, in addition, I don't know if you've paid attention to extreme sports, but there's also the ultra-high platform diving above 10 meters. Even if you're falling vertically, you can't go head first. It's also very dangerous. In ultra-high platform diving, you must ensure that your body is completely stable and balanced when you take off. You must keep your feet down, clamp your legs together, and use both hands to protect your balls. When you enter the water, make sure that your feet are in vertical contact with the water. Everyone expressed their admiration for his professionalism. But soon, everyone realized that something was wrong. You're talking about diving, but you're jumping from a building. Over 10 meters, there's no difference between landing with your feet down and landing with your head down. Either way, you're going to die. Your professional explanation sounds awesome, but it's completely useless, okay? Chen Guang was immersed in the thrill of bragging and didn't realize that he was making things up. It's the same for us jumpers. You must remember that you must fall vertically. Everyone thought, oh no, this guy really got carried away with his bragging. Chen Guang continued, in addition, I'd like to advise those who are interested in jumping not to learn from me and try all kinds of fancy techniques in the air. Although this makes the process of jumping look more graceful, it's very difficult for beginners to grasp their balance. It's fine if the height is a little lower, but over 10 meters, it's very easy for you to fall headfirst into the water. Oh no, land. Only a professional jumper like me, who has undergone professional training, can take off from a platform that is more than 30 meters high, complete the technical movements perfectly, and land steadily on both feet. Everyone didn't want to talk anymore. Since when does jumping from a building have a difference between a beginner and a veteran? We'd like to see what a veteran jumper looks like, but most of them are completely unrecognizable. There's no such thing as a veteran jumper in this world. The manager coughed violently, trying to interrupt Chen Guang's victory speech, but it was useless. The diving enthusiast also got excited and started to flatter Chen Guang. Mr. Chen is right. If you land vertically, there will be less blood splatters, and the landing posture will be more graceful. If you land horizontally or head down, the scene will be very unsightly, and you'll be at a disadvantage when the judges give marks. Damn, I can't make this up anymore. F***CK. What the F***CK am I talking about? Hearing this, the enthusiastic smile on Chen Guang's face froze. He suddenly realized that he had gone too far, and quickly tried to salvage the situation. He coughed violently like the manager. Everyone, my joke was good, right? That's bullsh**T. Jumping from a building is something that no one else can learn. Extremely dangerous maneuvers. Non-professionals are not allowed to imitate. Non-professionals are not allowed to imitate. You're dead. As he tried to salvage the situation, he secretly gestured with his hands, signaling everyone to quickly stop. Under Chen Guang's signal, the dozen or so guys who were holding up their phones decisively stopped recording. Chen Guang then turned his gaze to the old liar, and pointed at the holes on the ground. These are the ghost footprints made by the ghost you wanted. These are your Yin Xian, the arbiter of fate, the dragon child you wanted. How about it? Does this true dragon aura taste good enough? Chen Guang said with a ridiculing tone. If it wasn't for the young man's mocking expression, the old liar really wanted to yell, "You're **King true dragon. The 2 holes you made can break the Yin Xian and change the water." Therefore, there was nothing wrong with the old man's geomancy. But the old liar really couldn't bring himself to do that. As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling person, and don't praise a man who slaps his face. Alright, cut the crap. Let's go upstairs and jump. You said it before, love sauce jump, oil sauce jump. As Chen Guang said that, he grabbed the back of the old liar's collar. The old liar didn't understand, but maybe he was pretending not to. He struggled to get away but couldn't, shouting, "What do you mean? I don't understand what you're saying." The warm-hearted diving enthusiast explained, "What Mr. Chen said is that if he jumps, you have to jump too." The manager finally understood that his hotel had been targeted by a swindler. Remembering how he almost fell for his trick, he broke out in cold sweat. If he really told the boss about this, he would lose at least a few $100,000. If it was found out in the future, people might think that he was in cahoots with the old liar. He also said angrily, "That's right, aren't you a real person? You can't go back on your words." The old liar hurriedly shouted, "I won't jump. I won't jump even if you beat me to death. I can't do it. Oh, right, I also said that I can bark like a dog for the whole night." Chen Guang deliberately scared him. "That won't do. If you can't do it, I can help you. Come, don't be afraid. It'll be over in just a blink of an eye. Do you know the difference in sound effects between jumping from the 2nd floor and from the 10th floor? The manager saw that the old liar was scared to the point where his whole body was trembling and his face was pale. He had heard this old joke from Chen Guang before, so he chimed in, "That's right. Jumping from the 2nd floor is dong. Ah. Jumping from the 10th floor is ah. Dong. It'll be quick, it won't hurt, and you'll be reincarnated in an instant. The old liar immediately burst into tears. I'm begging you to let me go, for the sake of my old bones. It's really not easy for me. I didn't come here to cheat money on purpose. It's just that my 80-year-old mother is seriously ill and I need money for her treatment. That good-for-nothing son of mine also has cancer. I can't do anything about it. Chen Guang silently took off a watch from his wrist. Wanguo Bo Tao Fino series, about 60,000 yuan each. How sick is your family member that you can't afford it? You have to show off in front of the real person, my friend. If you really need money, would you buy such an expensive watch? With that, Chen Guang simply put the old liar on his shoulder. This was going to be a scene. The old liar thought that he was going to die for sure, so he hugged his head and scurried around like a rat, struggling with all his might. His face was full of tears and snot, and his crying was so tragic that anyone who heard it would be sad. Spare me, I beg you. I won't dare to do it again. I really won't dare to do it again. As he cried and shouted, crystal clear snot dripped down from the tip of his nose, swaying left and right like an old swing that could break at any time. It was simply a killing machine. Chen Guang had sharp eyes. Seeing that the situation was not good, he quickly threw him to the ground. All right. I was just scaring you. You don't deserve to die. The old liar acted as if he had received an amnesty from the emperor. He took a few deep breaths to calm down and kowtowed to Chen Guang and the manager while apologizing. After all, he was old and Chen Guang did not smell any blood on him, so he did not bother to torture him anymore. It was about time. After waiting for another 2 to 3 minutes, the old liar calmed down. Only then did the manager let the security guard help him up. After making a ruckus for a long time, Chen Guang was also a little bored. He said to the crowd, "All right, it's the middle of the night. Let's not disturb the people upstairs. We've been tossing and turning for long enough. Let's go back to where we should rest." The crowd dispersed one after another. Chen Guang also prepared to go upstairs. The hotel manager had already called the police. The old liar did not have to die, but if he was caught cheating and sent to the police station, he would not have a good ending. Mr. Chen. Unexpectedly, just as Chen Guang turned around and was about to leave, the old liar called out to him from who knows where. Chen Guang turned around. What, is there anything else? The old liar shrunk his neck and seemed to be a little hesitant. But after thinking about it, he said, "Mr. Chen, I have something to say, but I don't know if I should say it." Chen Guang, then don't say it. Humph, shameless old man, you want to call me MMP? When I was a flamer, you hadn't even learned how to use a smartphone yet. But I still want to say it. All right. Say it. I promise I won't beat you to death. The old liar swallowed his saliva and stole a few glances at Chen Guang. Then he said, "Although I've really only learned a little bit of the way of the Book of Changes, and I do speak without thinking about many things, but Mr. Chen, the murderous aura on your face is too strong. This is also the reason why I was so scared out of my wits just now. Although this old man is a swindler, I've been in the pugilistic world for so many years and can be considered to have seen some of the world. I've been through wind, rain, and water. Usually, there really isn't anyone who can scare me like this." Chen Guang's interest was piqued. It seemed that this guy whom he had exposed on the spot had some real skills. How could his murderous aura not be strong? That killer named Fox should be being cleaned up by the people from the General Administration of Order right now. And then? Chen Guang asked with a smile. The old liar seemed to be startled by his gaze. He shrunk back and said, "Of course, it's not a good thing for a person to have a strong murderous aura. According to what I've learned, this means that you'll soon have a sign of great misfortune." The manager reached out to smack him on the head. "Look at the situation now and you're still trying to lie to Mr. Chen. Do you think that buying 2 protective talismans from you will turn misfortune into blessing?" The old liar hurriedly defended himself. I wouldn't dare. I can really understand a little. Chen Guang waved his hand. Sigh, don't bother about him. Let him speak. I say, old liar, how big is the sign of big breasts that you're talking about? As he said that, he was laughing in his heart. This old liar had only scratched the surface. Of course there was a murderous aura and a sign of great misfortune, but it was definitely not his. It was those from those killer organizations. He saw the bra. Oh no, it was a sign of misfortune, but it was someone else's. Instead, the old liar was asked by Chen Guang. He pondered for a moment, then reached out with both hands to hold it up. So big. Chen Guang shook his head. No, no, no. This is too big. I like it between B and C. It doesn't look good if it's too big, and there's no elasticity. After saying that, he left. He did not want to bother with this old liar who had picked up crooked tricks. After Chen Guang had walked far away, the old liar looked at the manager beside him with a blank look. Young man, why is there a sign of great misfortune divided into B and C? Is the language of the foreigners so closely integrated with our traditional culture now? There's elasticity in the sign of great misfortune? Mr. Chen, are you saying that this ominous sign can be big or small? The manager's mouth was wide open. It took him a long time to understand what he meant. He sighed. Old liar, no wonder you can't fool anyone. You have to keep up with the times. Even when he was sent to the police station, the old liar still did not understand what the manager meant by keeping up with the times. He knew about the Olympics, but he did not understand enough about the things that young people these days. Sigh, it's time for me to retire. I'm old and useless. Sitting quietly in the detention center, the old liar looked at the moonlight outside the bars and thought to himself. Chapter 1151. After going upstairs, Chen Guang wanted to sleep, but after lying in bed for a long time, he couldn't fall asleep. He found a very embarrassing thing. He couldn't involve Chu Zijin and the others, but the other people in this hotel were also innocent. If the person who targeted him used a light weapon, it would be fine. But what if someone really shamelessly took out a big pipe from a distance and fired it at the building? What if he was asleep and didn't notice it? With these things in mind, Chen Guang tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. He felt that he should probably buy an RV and sleep alone in the RV every day to feel at ease. He first took out his mobile phone and sent a WeChat message to Fang Tianyu. Fang Tianyu, help me contact an RV seller in China and get me two. One for Yanjing and one for the other 5 capitals. Then he didn't care whether Fang Tianyu replied or not. He got up and went downstairs again. Previously, he tricked Chu Zijin into going out for a night jog, but this time he really had to go out and relax. As he walked through the forest path, he suddenly felt a slight vibration at his waist. Chen Guang touched his waist and felt something. Only then did he remember that he had taken Fox's communicator with him and forgot to throw it to the people from the Guangdong General Administration to clean up the mess. He picked it up and looked at it. The simplest LCD screen showed the word honey badger, indicating that it was a message from the honey badger. Chen Guang was puzzled. This person should know that Fox was dead. Why did he still contact the communicator at this time? Was he not afraid of being tracked and exposing his whereabouts? With such doubts, the skilled and courageous Chen Guang answered the signal. Fox is dead, right? From the inside came the voice of the honey badger. Just now, Chen Guang heard him talking with Fox from afar. They were the same person. Yes, he is dead. Chen Guang answered crisply, why, do you want to avenge him? The honey badger was silent for about 5 seconds before denying, no, I want to follow Fox's will and stay out of this matter. The thickness of the other party's skin made Chen Guang gasp in amazement. He was obviously admitting defeat, but he could still pull out such high-sounding words like he was inheriting someone else's will. From the looks of it, these assassin organizations were not stupid. They were not so stubborn and knew to hide when they could not afford to offend them. But this was not what he wanted. He had even prepared the RV to create opportunities for all of you so that you would obediently come and die one by one. It was not appropriate for all of you to be so terrified. You're giving up just like that? That's $100 million US. It's not in line with your principles to give up so easily. Once you succeed, your organization will not have to worry about food and clothing for at least 3 years, right? Mr. Chen, you really know how to joke. If I didn't know better, I would think that you're a salesman. Chen Guang laughed. You also know how to joke, so I'll chat with you more lightheartedly. Fox is your partner, right? He just died in my hands not long ago. If I were you, I would be furious, but I don't feel any anger from your tone at all. Mr. Chen, I also want to be angry, but it doesn't help. Foxes are the best killers among us higher animals. I believe in his judgment. He must have felt extremely desperate to say such a thing. He even asked me to remind our friendly organization that your ability is beyond our imagination. Chen Guang's eyes turned. That's right. If you only send people to deal with me one by one like this time, of course, you're seeking your own death. But, I can give you a chance. Mr. Chen, don't tease me. I've already given up. I'm calling this number now to apologize to you and to swear that I will never participate again, so that you can rest assured. Chen Guang tried to persuade him. Let me finish. You can choose a location, anywhere is fine, even if it is the Great Desert of Africa. You can unite all the forces that you can and prepare whatever you want. Any big weapon is fine. Heavy weapons don't matter. Rocket launchers or nuclear warheads are no problem. I swear, I'll only come alone. The badger obviously thought he was joking. No, don't be in a hurry to refuse. You'd better call more people, the more the better. I'll give you a chance to use all your means to kill me. Are you sure you're not tempted at all? Chen Guang was like a devil tempting him to commit a crime. Even if the other party really got a missile, he was not afraid at all. If you have the ability, you can blow me up. If I can't die in an atomic furnace, a nuclear warhead is no different. Ever since the last time he jumped off a building and became Chen Guangchan, he had become extremely arrogant. He finally realized that not only did he have an immortal body, but even if his body was completely destroyed to the energy state, he would still be an elemental creature, the earth-paced bomber. He would still have an invincible body that could slowly recover. As long as I don't implicate others, what's there to be afraid of? Fortunately, aerospace technology was not developed enough. Otherwise, Chen Guang felt that he would not die even if he hit the sun. Mr. Chen, I've already said this much to you. I know you're testing me, but even if you ask me 10,000 times, I'll give you the same answer. We've already given up. Fox has already paid the price with his life. Please let us go, goodbye. Also, the second brother in Africa is not me, it's the hyena. Poor honey badger. Even though he was the leader of an internationally famous advanced animal organization, he was still confused by Chen Guang's unconventional way of talking. He really could not continue the conversation, so he quickly hung up. Less than 2 seconds after the honey badger hung up, Chen Guang saw sparks on the special communicator in his hand, and then there was a burst of thick smoke. It was obvious that someone had activated the self-destruct program remotely. That honey badger must be afraid that I'll call him again. He's afraid that I might be tempted by what I said. Forget it, I'll let them be. He found a random tree outside and lay down for the whole night. Early in the morning, he went straight to the filming site. Halfway there, he found a roadside stall and ordered 7 steamers of soup dumplings and 8 big bowls of porridge. He ate happily. No one would believe it if he said it. Not only did a billionaire fail to live a life of luxury, but he also ended up eating at roadside stalls with the sky as his blanket and the ground as his seat. As he chewed on the kimchi in his mouth, Chen Guang recalled the viral video of Xiao Tsong eating at a roadside stall some time ago. Everyone was stunned. They rushed up to Xiaozong and asked, "Oh my god, are you Chang Xiaozong? Does a rich person like you also need to eat?" At that time, Xiaozong in the video had his mouth wide open. He was completely stunned by the shocking question from the passerby. Qin Guang felt that he was too weak. If it were him, he would definitely answer that way. If rich people don't eat, do they eat sh*t? While he was leisurely complaining in his heart, he received a call. It was from Wu Miaowan. He did not know what had happened. "What's the matter?" Wu Miaowan was not in a good mood. "I have bad news here. I just received it, but I don't know if I should tell you." "Just say it. I'm not afraid of bad news now. Last night, Higher Animals, Shadow, and the Z organization jointly issued a statement saying that they will completely withdraw from the operation to kill you. Anything that happens in the future will have nothing to do with them. Isn't that a good thing? But not long ago, at 7:00 sharp in the morning, your bounty increased again." "By how much?" Qin Guang's eyes lit up slightly. Wu Miaowan said, $10 million. Master Guang rolled his eyes. "TSK. I was wondering how much it would be. $10 million is nothing. It's gone with a fart." No. This was only the first time it rose. 3 minutes later, it rose again. This time, it's $90 million. Qin Guang's eyes narrowed slightly. This is a little interesting, but there's nothing to be surprised about. For those assassin organizations, $100 million is actually enough for them to take the risk. The difference between 200 million and 100 million isn't that big. But at 7:10, which is 5 minutes ago, your bounty suddenly shot up by a whole 2 times. It should be a fourth force that has intervened. The total amount now is $400 million. Qin Guang was speechless. It seemed like it was going from a quantitative change to a qualitative change. He finally looked straight at it. Wu Miaowan also became more serious, not daring to joke with him. "Director, I know you're not afraid of these things, but..." Qin Guang took a deep breath. "But what?" "But the last additional bounty is different from the previous $200 million. Other than targeting you, your family is included as well. The price is clearly marked according to your blood relationship. The entire bounty has changed from just you to a list of 31 people." "What?" Qin Guang's good mood was instantly shattered. F***ck. A $200 million bounty targeting his entire family. Adding on the previous 200 million, the total amount was 400 million. His head was probably the most valuable since the birth of the US dollar. "You don't have to worry too much. We've already verified the list and candidates as soon as we received the news. These 31 people are all guarded by our Guangdong headquarters 24/7. Because of the special circumstances, there are another 100 or so people from the major sects in the bureau. They're all top-notch experts to ensure that nothing goes wrong." Wu Miaowan comforted him. Qin Guang nodded. "Thank you for your trouble. Please don't make any mistakes." Wu Miaowan patted her chest. "Don't worry. Speaking of which, this stupid net is really annoying. We can't get any information at all. What do you plan to do now?" Although Qin Guang was furious, he was not that afraid with the Glorious Shield's advanced preparations. He believed in the methods of internal force martial artists, but the situation had become more serious. His family might not be able to live like ordinary people for a while. This was very annoying. The most annoying thing was the secretive nature of the dark net. No matter how many guesses he had, he still could not determine which forces were involved. He really wanted to drop the matter in front of him and deal with this mess, but he only had 1 more hour to record high. My God! As long as he finished recording these 2 hours of scenes related to him, he could go back and not care about anything else. Besides, even if he turned around and left now, where would he go to find people all over the world? Even if he really got a private jet to be on standby 24/7, it would take him at least 10 days to fly all over the world. Moreover, people like American Airlines, Japan's financial group, or Sanchin Group would not be stupid enough to wait in an obvious place after doing something bad. God knows where they were hiding. What if he put a bounty on someone else? What a joke. How was he going to compete with these multinational corporations that were worth tens of billions of US dollars? For the first time, Chen Guang felt the shamelessness of the power of capital. Although he had a fierce tiger in his heart, he had no way to bite it. After calling his family again, and especially after scolding his father, Chen Guang waited outside the recording studio with a pained expression. His father could not help but be angry. He was such a free and easy person. Now that his mother was healthy and his family was not short of money, his life was even more comfortable. Today, he would go fishing at the fish farm in the county town. Tomorrow, he would call his friends to play cards at the tea house for the whole afternoon. The day after that, he would call 7 or 8 people to drive here and there happily. It was indescribably comfortable. Now, they couldn't go anywhere. Their whole family couldn't even gather together, so they were sent to different places to hide like thieves. Knowing that they were protecting him, he did not want to cause trouble for them. However, as an ordinary person, he suddenly became so uncomfortable. Anyone would feel like they were under house arrest, but he still had to thank them. However, Chen Guoli was not completely unreasonable. After scolding Chen Guang enough, he began to worry about his safety. "Brat, why don't you come back too? You're so paranoid. It's fine if we're old, but you're still young. Don't let anything happen to you." Feng Rong, who was at the side, also grabbed the microphone nervously. "Your dad is right. You can earn money anytime. Listen to Mom. Hurry up and come back. Lie low for a while. We didn't know who you offended before. You spent hundreds of millions to find a killer." Finally, because of his own matters, his parents were disturbed. Chen Guang felt very uncomfortable. "Mom, Dad, you really don't have to worry about me. I'm worried about you now. Don't go out recklessly. You have to cooperate with the soldiers and my friends." "We understand, but you," Chen Guang retorted, "your son is now the world's #1 expert. Even if the reward is several times higher, it's fine. I can't explain it clearly to you. Besides, we can't hide forever, can we? Without an explanation or a way to deal with it, the money has already been taken out. You won't give up until you see the coffin. There must be an end. Otherwise, this matter will not end. So, you must pay attention to your own safety. Leave the rest to me." Chen Guoli and Feng Rong had long known that their son was not ordinary. However, they only knew superficially about him. Now that he had grown up, his wings had hardened, and he had become even more stubborn. It seemed that there was no better choice than to believe in him now. Xin Qin's voice came through the microphone again. "Uncle, Auntie, Chief Chen is not bragging. You must take care of yourselves. That will be the greatest help you can give him." "All right, it seems like that's the only way." On the other side, the spokesperson of China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs finally appeared on the stage. For the first time, he brought up the shady things on the dark web. This time, it was probably the most overbearing declaration by China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs since the founding of the country. "We are warning some people and some forces. What you've done has crossed the line. If you don't restrain yourself, you will bear the consequences." Chapter 1152. The spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was making an urgent statement on the news station when Chen Guang's phone rang again. As expected, it was Old Master Jean. When Chen Guang saw the name on the screen, he knew what Old Master Jean was going to say to him. As expected, after he picked up the call, he was basically telling him not to worry too much. Although he had resigned, his rank was still there. Putting his name on the deep web and offering such a bounty on a high-level official of Huaxia was simply challenging the dignity of the entire Huaxia. They could not allow this to happen. Chen Guang did not know when he had been promoted from a deputy minister to a minister. He only understood after listening to Old Master Jin's explanation. It was just like how some of the old bureau chiefs in his hometown had retired. When they reached a certain age, they would lose their ability to work due to illness or other reasons. However, they had not reached the legal retirement age yet. What should they do? Then, they would be assigned to some high-level units that did not need to be responsible for specific affairs. They would be given an empty title and enjoy the benefits of the same rank. However, they would not need to continue working, such as the party school or some association. Chen Guang had resigned and left without any hesitation. However, Old Master Jin did not want to let him go just like that. Therefore, without his consent, they created a unit called the Central Research Institute of Martial Arts, or the Institute of Martial Arts for short. They put him as the dean, and his administrative rank did not drop. It was just that Chen Guang had not been in charge before, and he was not short of money. He did not need the salary of an ape. Old Master Jin did not tell him about it, and he was not interested in it. Now that things had come to this, Old Master Jin brought up this matter to reassure him. However, Old Master Jin was a big mouth and told the truth about the Institute of Martial Arts. It turned out that this research institute, which claimed to be on the same level as the Chinese Academy of Sciences, only had him, the dean. However, this was not important anymore. It was obvious that the Deep Web, the world's major assassin organizations, and those ignorant people who put a bounty on Chen Guang's head were provoking the dignity of the entire country. They were trying to become the enemy of the country. The old master and Chen Guang guaranteed that they would start to strictly check the customs at every international airport. Whoever dared to come would not be let off. In addition, the old master also asked for an imperial sword from Chen Guang so that the government could borrow people from the Guangbing General Administration, such as the Xinqing sect. It was not necessary to borrow senior disciples above the level of bone strength. Even if they could only borrow martial artists of muscle strength, it would be enough. The main purpose was to place them at the customs and other entry and exit points to help check people. You don't know this, but every time we want to ask your 2 deputy bureau chiefs for people, these 2 little girls always say the same thing, asking us to ask you. We get a headache. You really can't blame me for this. I didn't ask them to disobey orders. I also told them more than once that things are different now and they can't be like before. But you also know that people who practice martial arts in the past are used to being free and undisciplined. Even if they are more restrained now, they will always be more rebellious than ordinary people. But this time, I will definitely make it clear to them. I promise to cooperate fully and not let anything go wrong. Chen Guang immediately promised. Before hanging up the phone, Old Master Jin said, "Don't let your guard down. You also know that our national border is so long, and it will be hard to guard against others if they really want to come in. In short, there will be good wine when friends come, and there will be knives and guns when people come. We will set up an inescapable net, and we will be able to get something. As time goes by, those reckless killers will suffer heavy losses, and they will know to retreat." Chen Guang nodded and replied, "I know. It won't be a problem for me, but I'm worried about my family. I will go back to Beijing in the afternoon. Grandpa Jin, can you help me find a private plane? I am afraid I will have to take over from guest to host." "Private plane? What about the crew?" Chen Guang thought for a while. "I don't need the crew. I can do it alone. You know that I know how to fly a plane." He did not intend to implicate others. If there really was a crazy assassin organization that shot his plane down with that kind of bomb, it would be a big joke. To him, the most carefree thing is to be a lone ranger. As the saying goes, the tree wants peace, but the wind will not stop. Chen Guang wants to be a good person, but others do not give him a chance. After waiting for about half an hour, Chu Zijin finally arrived with the filming crew on time. Seeing that Chen Guang was already waiting for her, Chu Zijin walked up to him in surprise. "I thought you were going to sleep in for a while. Why are you suddenly so dedicated today?" I have something to do, and I have to hurry up. I have to leave after filming the show. Film my scenes first, and you can change the plan. Chen Guang was not in the mood to joke with Chu Zijin, but he could not show his anxiety in front of others. So, he could only force himself to calm down. Chu Zijin frowned slightly. According to the original plan, they had to film all the scenes that did not require Chen Guang to appear in the morning, and then focus on his scenes. At least, that was the previous arrangement, and it was also to make it more convenient for unified planning. Now, they had to change the script again. Must it be like this? Chu Zijin questioned Chen Guang's request for the first time. Yesterday, I first sent out the recording script, and the guests were prepared according to the previous order. We suddenly changed the plan. Indeed, the guests who participated in the filming of the show had been temporarily changed by Chen Guang once. They pinched their noses and endured it. Now that they changed it again, they were afraid that everyone would have an opinion. Chen Guang nodded. Communicate with them more. This time, there is really no other way. If they really have an opinion, then give them more labor fees. Chen Guang also knew that he would always bring a lot of trouble to others when he came up with an idea. If he encountered this kind of thing, he would definitely be angry, but he always had his own reasons. Sigh, okay. Chu Zijin could only summon the program's director team and held a meeting for about 5 minutes. She asked everyone to temporarily change the recording plan again. As for Chen Guang, he once again separated from the crowd and hid under a big tree in the distance. It looked like he was enjoying the shade, but in fact, he was keeping a distance from everyone. About 20 minutes later, the new recording plan was officially released. The assistants took the newly printed script and found the guests backstage who were preparing to put on makeup. This time, it was a complete uproar. Originally, the guests more or less had some opinions about Chen Guang, but because of the generous remuneration, coupled with the fact that Chen Guang was now famous, and the fact that several domestic guests were directly given political tasks by the higher-ups, they decided to pinch their noses and just let it go. But now it seemed that not only did Chen Guang not restrain himself, but he also became even more aggressive. Even a clay figurine had 3 points of anger, not to mention these burly men who usually spent most of their time on fitness training and honing their professional skills. Usually, they would be thankful if they did not bully others. When had they ever been wronged? Moreover, they had accumulated a lot of resentment. Several world-famous strongmen invited from overseas were the first to explode. The weightlifting team and a few well-known domestic athletes contacted the other side. After weighing the pros and cons, they felt that this matter could not be tolerated. The crowd pushed away the assistant who came over to the podium, and did not even look for Chu Zijin. Instead, they rushed straight out of the recording studio and went straight to Chen Guang, who was enjoying the shade outside. The recording crew could not stop them at all. Hearing the noise coming from afar, Chen Guang put down the revision materials in his hands and sat up straight. He began to get nervous again. It was not because of these people that he was nervous, but because he had to guard against a big guy who would suddenly fly over at this time. Mr. Chen, you are really too much. Before the crowd got close, the bald strong man who was walking in the front loudly protested from afar. This bald strong man had just won the International Strongman Challenge last month. He was very popular, so it was not surprising that he had the worst temper. Beside him were also the top few winners of the challenge or the previous champions. The other domestic guests walking behind the crowd were more restrained, but their attitudes were not very friendly. How am I too much? Chen Guang asked even though he already knew the answer. We came all the way to China to participate in your show so that we can compete with you on the same stage. But we do not feel the slightest bit of respect from you. You have changed the recording plan again and again, making us look forward to competing with you on the same stage fall through. We are all real athletes, and we are also participating in competitive events, not actors. We never act. But now, we feel that you are treating us like clowns. You are trying to be like those fake shows, using post-production methods to produce a variety show. This will cause great damage to our personal reputation. This Baldy looked big and burly, but his words were clear and logical. Chen Guang was almost convinced by the other party. But he couldn't tell others about his difficulties. How could he tell them that the reason why he did not follow the original plan to record with you at the same time was because there was a $400 million bounty on his head? Others would definitely go crazy and run away with their money. At this time, how could Chen Guang make people believe that even if a big guy really flew over, as long as he was on guard, he could still ensure everyone's safety? Others would only think that he was crazy and run away with their money. This was the generation gap. It was just like how caterpillars never knew that the world was three-dimensional, and the caterpillar's world was always just a flat surface. It was not my intention to cause such a big problem for you. I apologize to all of you here. Since Chen Guang was the one in the right, he felt embarrassed and took the initiative to apologize. Unexpectedly, the bald man was unreasonable. I do not accept your apology. Actually, I wanted to leave last night, but my brother is a racing enthusiast. He insisted that I ask Mr. Chen for an autograph. Otherwise, I would have left a long time ago. Chen Guang continued to be polite. Yes, it's all my fault. But now, you have changed the recording plan again. The script that we worked so hard to memorize last night has changed again. Do you know how angry and unwilling we were to cooperate with you in this act? Your actions are a complete violation of our contract and the spirit of sportsmanship. We are not recording this show anymore. I don't want your pay either. The bald man was really angry. He was giving up on the $100,000 appearance fee that he had promised. That, Mr. Chen, if there's nothing else, we will leave first. The team is still waiting for us to go back for training. Actually, Mr. Chen, you have so many skills. Why do you have to compete in strength? Isn't that what people like you should be doing? You don't know how disgusted we are. You are a big shot after all. Why would you fake such a small thing? I'm sorry. On the other side, the captain of the national weightlifting team, as the representative of the national guests, also stood up to speak. Chu Zijin, who was beside him, saw that the show was going to be cancelled and was burning with anxiety. Hey! Everyone calm down. Calm down. It's not what you think. Chen Guang did not ask you to fake it. Chen Guang was stunned at first. He did not know how to react. These people thought that he had asked them to fake it? What a joke. Hey, everyone, wait a minute. Didn't you see the video online? Chu Zijin could not stop anyone, but Chen Guang could. Baldy turned around. Mr. Chen, I saw it a few days ago. But no matter how strong your hands are, it doesn't mean that you are a real Hercules. It's like pulling a truck. You need all the muscles in your body, from your arms to your shoulders to your legs. Baldy was referring to the video of Chen Guang catching the bullet. Chen Guang scratched his head. What about the new video that came out last night? You didn't see it? Baldy and the others looked at each other. The Chinese weightlifting team members reacted quickly. They took out their phones and started scrolling through Weibo. What new video is out this time? 2 minutes later, the guests finally saw Chen Guang jumping off the building last night with a wave of curses, F***CK, and SH**T. The video with the highest repost rate was indeed the diving enthusiast's video. This guy was very professional. After he went back, he even added his own commentary to the video. The rest of the crew members also looked at their phones and gasped. They had gone to bed early last night and did not know how lively it was on the internet. What kind of leg is that? Oh my God. There's such a big hole in the ground. Is this real? Of course it's real. We saw this hotel when we passed by it. I called my friend to confirm it. My friend is staying in this hotel. What he said is real. He was there last night too. After a long time, when everyone had calmed down, Chen Guang patted his leg. Now do you still think that I am asking you to fake it? Those of you who are good at physics, can you calculate how much force I used to support myself when I landed? How many tons? The impact of landing from such a high altitude was definitely more than 3 or 4 tons. Okay. Everyone calm down, right? Anyway, thank you for your cooperation. Although according to the shooting plan, you can't compete with me, it's good to be able to watch it live. I can promise you that I will not fake it, okay? Also, I will announce another decision. Everyone's labor fee will be doubled. That's right. Rich people can do whatever they want. Chen Guang did not want to cause any more trouble. He just wanted to finish the job and leave. An hour later, amidst the thunderous applause, Chen Guang performed a magnificent feat of pulling a train with his shoulders for 300 meters. What was more terrifying was that when the train picked up speed, he used both hands to support the front of the train and stepped on the side of the aisle to stop the train. Before Chen Guang had time to enjoy the applause, he received a phone call that made his face change. Chapter 1153. Perhaps what he was afraid of had come true. This phone call made his emotions explode. He was ready to take action in the afternoon, but the killer organization's reaction was faster than he had imagined. Or perhaps those who had originally come for him had retreated after seeing the feedback from the higher animals, the Shadow, and the Z organization. They were planning to return in defeat, but were tempted by the additional 200 million. They were pleasantly surprised to find that there was a second option that was easier and more feasible, and the return was equally generous. They couldn't afford to offend Chen Guang, but they could find a pushover. As a result, these people immediately changed their target and went straight to Lalai County. If not for Chen Guang, the Guangding General Administration, and the Chinese military's preparations, they would have fallen into their trap. But this still made him restless. Chu Zijin had just finished filming Chen Guang's scenes and was delighted to see that the results were beyond her expectations. However, she saw Chen Guang's face change after receiving a phone call. He asked, "What's wrong? What happened?" Chen Guang waved his hand. "It's nothing. There's a situation at home. I'll leave the rest to you. I'm afraid I have to go first." Seeing that he didn't want to elaborate, Chu Zijin didn't ask further. She nodded. "Okay, then you must take care of yourself. You don't have to worry about me. I won't let you down." With such a scene in hand, Chu Zijin felt that even if a husky led the production team to produce the show would still be successful, let alone herself. Chen Guang patted her shoulder. "I'm relieved to hear that. Don't save money. Currently, Tianguang Media has about 800 million in cash, right? We don't need to hype up negative news, but we can advertise like a normal variety show. Don't be afraid of spending money, and don't always expect others to pay for it. Spend freely where you need to spend. If the first 3 episodes failed, then so be it. But with my scenes in the 4th episode, we can only succeed. I approve you to invest another 100 million in publicity." Chu Zijin's expression changed slightly. "But this will affect our profits." Chen Guang shook his head. "I've already said that I have another motive for participating in the 4th episode. You don't have to worry about profits, and you don't have to be afraid of spending money. I only have one request, and that is that the program's ratings and influence must not lose to my previous programs. As for the publicity strategy, you should be able to come up with some ideas. If you really can't think of anything, I'll give you a suggestion. I'll take the lead and say something along the lines of Almighty Superman has returned to the variety world. That's about it." After that, Chen Guang didn't waste any time. He said goodbye to the others and drove straight to Beijing Airport. He planned to make a trip back to Lalai County. Sigh. Although his parents were unharmed, they must have been frightened, right? It turned out that the call he had just received was from Xian Qin. Just 5 minutes ago, the originally calm and peaceful Lalai County suddenly had a major incident. The famous Chen family villa had directly exploded. At that time, there had been a loud noise, and then the Chen family villa was covered in thick smoke. When the busybodies approached to take a look, they saw that the originally beautiful bungalow had almost been razed to the ground. Some of Chen Guoli's friends who were close to him immediately called to ask, and only relaxed when they heard that there was no one at home. Chen Guoli was angry and anxious. Although they didn't live in the villa, they had just bought a new TV and lived in a new bungalow for less than 3 months, and now it was all gone. If it weren't for his parents listening to Chen Guang and obediently moving to another place to hide, he was afraid that both of them would have died. But he couldn't tell anyone about this. He could only repeatedly say that he had probably forgotten to turn off the gas when he went out, and the gas exploded. That was all. Although others didn't really believe it, they could only exclaim that the gas in your house was so explosive. With the memory of the countless dead appliances, gypsum wires, and TV walls, Chen Guoli called Chen Guang worriedly and angrily, saying that he was safe and at the same time scolding him. It seemed that this time, Chen Guang had provoked a terrible person. It was better to let the young man come back and hide first. If he kept being beaten up like this outside, he wouldn't feel at ease. When he received the call from his father, Chen Guang was driving halfway, and there was still half an hour's drive from Yanjing Airport. He could only agree to Chen Guoli's words, saying that he would be home tonight and asking them to pay more attention to safety. Chen Guang hung up the phone with a livid face. He really felt that his previous decision to join the killer organization was right and wise. I can't be lenient to these guys. They are a group of flies that can't be gotten rid of, but they always hide in the dark and disregard human life for money. They pretend to be human, but they do the most shady business in the world. What's more hateful is that I clearly have unparalleled abilities, but I just can't do anything to those people. No matter how strong I am, I'm just one person. God knows how many killer organizations there are in the world, and God knows where they are hiding. Even if the general administration of Guangding sends people to search and hunt them all over the world, they might not be able to do it. Chen Guang turned his head to look at the heavenly Holy Grail beside him and secretly clenched his teeth. I really hope that the heavenly Holy Grail gives me the ability to teleport. Damn it, I'll appear in front of whoever causes trouble and kill them with a whoosh. You guys want money? I'll let you guys know sooner or later that you need to be alive to spend money. F***CK. That's a good idea, but it's a pity that I can't do it now. Just as this thought popped up in his mind, Liuli's voice, which he hadn't heard for a long time, suddenly rang out in his mind. It seemed that she had recovered from the after-effects of using her strength to save Chen Guang from jumping off a building. Chen Guang asked, then what level do I need to be at? In the most original function of the heavenly Holy Grail, if you want to truly teleport, it's equivalent to coming into contact with the rules of time and space. In addition, your control over these rules must be strong enough to be able to use them in your real world. In that case, you need to be at least at the 7th level. You're still far from that. Chen Guang's face was filled with tears. Do you really need to be of such a high level? But you can still settle for the next best thing. Why do you have to aim for absolute teleportation right from the start? For example, the 6th level, Guang Mo Tian, is enough to grant you an ability. You can view it as absolute speed. Of course, this absolute speed doesn't exceed the speed of light that you understand. In your real world, the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers per second, right? Yes. That's right. In that case, in the Guang Mo Tian's world in the cup, you can obtain a movement speed that is infinitely close to the speed of light, which is about 299,999 kilometers per second. That should be enough to satisfy your needs. Chen Guang pinched his fingers and calculated. This was the logic, but he didn't quite understand the scientific principle behind this kind of movement method that Liuli was talking about. Can I use my legs to run close to the speed of light? Won't my legs be burnt to ashes? You're thinking too much. That's already a power that belongs to gods, and it's no longer within the scope of mortals. In short, it's where your heart is, and where your actions are. Without using your legs. It sounds very profound. Do you use your legs to fly? But even if it's friction with the air, no, even if I fly in the universe and have friction with the particles of the universe, I can still burn up, right? Scram. Why do you have so many questions? Chen Guang was very interested in this sublight speed movement method. As long as he had this method, mere assassins could be squashed to death in a matter of minutes. But as a good youth who grew up under the influence of science in the new era, even if he had already encountered countless unscientific things in his life, he still habitually wanted to use scientific principles to understand these things. This was a subconscious instinct. Sigh, you can't blame me for this. I really can't understand it. This is very normal. Being scolded by Lioli, Chen Guang wasn't angry at all. Don't ask me. In any case, I don't know why. I only know that you can do it. Chen Guang pondered in his heart, is it because I'm the earth-paced exploder, and I can restore my body to the energy state when I move, and then move forward using a principle similar to the movement of light? Seeing that he was analyzing with great interest, Lioli couldn't be bothered to care about him. Maybe. Chen Guang continued, then there's a new problem. This kind of high-speed movement will definitely require a certain amount of preparation time, and in the process of moving, it can't be easily retracted and released. Of course, there's another possibility, which is to use divine power to wrap my entire body, and the divine power that wraps me has a certain property of breaking through space, so in the process of high-speed movement, there won't be any friction with the outside world. In addition, this divine power that wraps me may just be a thin film covering my body. Then, relative to the outside world, I'm moving at sublight speed, but relative to the divine power that wraps me, I'm still, so there won't be any friction. That's also possible. Chen Guang came to a conclusion. Lioli, your so-called absolute speed doesn't seem to be suitable for actual combat. Lioli, hey. You guessed it this time. What the hell is going on in your head? Chen Guang smiled proudly. What's wrong with that? I've read a lot of online novels, and I've also taken philosophy classes in university. My mathematics isn't bad, and I understand logic. Lioli, it's not that I'm lecturing you, but read more books, enrich yourself, and enrich your level of education. That way, you'll be able to have the ability to analyze logically. Are you mocking this empress for being brainless? Chen Guang shook his head repeatedly. No. I definitely didn't mean that, I'm just telling you. The so-called logical ability is actually to infer the unknown based on what you already know. As long as the theory is tenable, then even if this unknown possibility can't be verified in a short period of time, it can still be considered as exploring a certain possibility. Even if this may be proven to be wrong in the end, there's no harm in the process of logical thinking itself. Alright, shut up, stinking brat. This empress isn't interested in what you're saying. You're pretending to be a quack in front of a real god, saying some pretentious words. Chen Guang chuckled. Although you're a real god, Lioli, you have a huge shortcoming. You attribute a lot of things that I can't understand in a short period of time to the divine power that you've long been accustomed to, or the power of the heavenly Holy Grail, which limits your thinking. In Yunsheng, Lioli rolled her eyes and didn't want to talk to him. However, Chen Guang was interested. Just like in our country, the whole world says that the language of Huaxia is the most difficult to learn, but people like us who grew up in Huaxia don't think it's difficult at all. It's just a matter of course, and we've learned it unconsciously. What does this have to do with this empress? Of course it has something to do with this. When Huaxia people learn the language of Huaxia, they think it's sloppy and normal, and there's nothing special about it. But let a foreign language master learn the language of Huaxia from a different point of view, maybe he can see things that we, who are involved in the situation, can't see. There's a saying that the best teachers of Huaxia are not Huaxia people. While Chen Guang was talking, Lioli suddenly became silent. Chen Guang didn't see that Lioli's eyes became extraordinarily bright at this moment. She seemed to have an epiphany. I see. Lioli whispered to herself in a low voice that no one could hear. Seeing that he had convinced her, Chen Guang became complacent again. Do you think I'm very reasonable? So, although you're an emperor, maybe you don't know the meaning of a god better than me. Because in your eyes, everything seems to be a matter of course, but I look at these problems with a curious mind. What you said is very reasonable, but I have to tell you another bad news. Chen Guang asked, what? Your world in the cup is coming. What? Your world in the one-line heavenly cup is coming. Chen Guang was driving and had a blank look on his face. Why? I haven't been out of the world in the cup for a long time. I'm in a hurry. Why at this time? Oh, by the way, shouldn't you inform me 24 hours in advance? Will it appear randomly in these 24 hours? Liuli shook her head, no, immediately. Besides, have you not been in the world in the cup for so long that you almost forget the rule of the appearance of the world in the cup? Chen Guang was very puzzled. What rule? Liuli sneered, the rule of the world in the cup is that there is no rule. What you said is so reasonable that I can't refute it. Chen Guang was complaining. The next moment, his spirit entered Yuncheng. Standing in front of Liuli, Chen Guang looked at the deer fruit that was getting taller and taller in the distance, and then looked at Liuli in front of him with a helpless expression. Well, I'm also very curious about what kind of big move the Heavenly Holy Grail can make this time. Thinking about it carefully, the Heavenly Holy Grail had not moved for a long time. This even made him a little uncomfortable. When he was in the world of the spiritual Heavenly Cup for the first time, it came every few days, which made him have to be on high alert at all times. Otherwise, there was the risk of becoming the strongest anal fistula king in history. Since he upgraded to the second one-line sky, the frequency had decreased significantly, and it also gave Chen Guang a buffer of 24 hours, which made him a lot more relaxed. The previous few world of language, world of acting, and leg muscle training were quite normal. However, ever since he entered the world view of the eighth immortal heaven with the help of Liuli's power, but after he cultivated the world of true martial with the power of the fourth world of clear sky, everything was a mess. First, he came to the world of photocatalyst laboratory, which made him bear a heavy debt, and then he just didn't come anymore. Counting with his fingers, it has been almost 3 months now, and it's finally here. Hopefully, the world in the cup this time is a little more normal. Chen Guang prayed silently, then began to think about what ability he wanted the most before. Absolute speed? Liuli immediately hit him on the head. In your dreams, I already said that absolute speed needs to be at least the 6th Guang Motion. What can that be? I don't know. Oh right, why isn't Lu Ming talking today? Liuli continued to shrug, I don't know either, she has been quiet since a while ago. As the two were chatting, a whirlpool suddenly appeared on top of Chen Guang's head, causing his expression to change. This vortex was blood red in color, like flowing blood. It was extremely strange and dark. In Chen Guang's mind, the electronic voice of the Heavenly Holy Grail inexplicably sounded. World of slaughter, descend. Chen Guang suddenly realized, but he couldn't accept it. I was thinking about the assassin organization before, but I didn't want to become an assassin. Isn't this overlapping with my true martial divine technique? What slaughtering world? Can I return it? Of course not. He was sucked in again with a whoosh. Chapter 1154. Flying in the blood-red space-time tunnel, Chen Guang looked up and down at the exceptionally unique color of the tunnel wall. He didn't understand why it became like this. He wanted to get rid of the assassin organization, but this didn't mean that he liked to kill. Wait, when he was talking to the fox, his killing intent was very heavy. Since today, when he heard that the newly built villa at home had been blown up, there was indeed a ball of fire in his heart. Could it be that I was completely seen through by the Heavenly Holy Grail? Perhaps I didn't even realize it, but a valve in the depths of my heart was opened? Impossible. I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I'm obviously a very normal person, okay? But thinking like this inexplicable world of slaughter was clearly in front of him. Judging by the process, it seemed that he was unknowingly walking towards the end. Then, what would this world in the cup be like? Qin Guang clenched his fists. Logically speaking, this should be the world in the line of heaven cup. Then, what awaited him should be a space with a diameter ranging from 100 meters to a few hundred meters. Now that the cup was soaked in bamboo grass, then, would it be a dense jungle of slaughter, or a deep sea full of corals and mermaids? Forget it, this isn't important. Anyway, since I've already called it by this name, I'll see blood when I enter. It's best if it can give me some monsters like in Heroes of Might and Magic to fight, otherwise, it'll be too disgusting. Although I've been rough with people in the realm of true martial, I've always done it with a purpose. The people in the realm of true martial are not good people. They've died for 20 years, and then they've become good men again. It doesn't matter if I treat them like NPCs. Finally, with a pa sound, Qin Guang finally landed in this so-called world of slaughter. When he raised his head, his mouth was wide open in astonishment, and his face was full of disbelief. This world of slaughter was not a deep sea, nor was there a lake, nor was it a plain, but a huge, ancient Roman Colosseum. It was not the ancient Roman ruins that often appeared on TV. It was much larger than that. With Qin Guang's sense of distance as a historical racing god, he could accurately measure the distance with his naked eye. This Colosseum had a diameter of 1 kilometer. It was a huge ancient Roman Colosseum. Apart from that, Qin Guang's ears were buzzing as if there were 10,000 flies circling around him. This scene reminded him of the time when he went to the home stadium of the NFL team, the New York Yankees, after he finished the premiere of Women in North America. He accompanied the big shots of the fighting world to tour around, and he once went to the home stadium of the NFL team. Qin Guang's hearing was stronger than that of an ordinary person. Even though he was far away, Qin Guang could hear every word clearly amidst the noise. It was nothing more than killing him, butchering him, or something else with the same meaning. But after listening for half a minute, Qin Guang realized that something was wrong. It sounded extremely noisy, but after shouting for so long, it seemed like they were repeating the same lines over and over again. Qin Guang squinted his eyes and looked carefully. Damn, the Celestial Grail had habitually cut corners again. Every inch of the Colosseum's circular arena looked lifelike, and it was quite textured to the touch. It was countless times more realistic than a top 3D game with the most powerful GTX 1080 graphics card. It was countless times more realistic than the holographic projection online games he had read in the online novels he had read before. Well, this was real. He grabbed a handful of soil from the ground and pinched it in his hand. He felt the warm touch and smelled it. The quality of the Celestial Grail this time was very high. It was super realistic. Although it could not be compared to the Sea of Time, it was countless times better than the acting world. However, looking at the spectator stands outside the arena, the more realistic the texture of the arena was, the more exaggerated the cutting corners on the spectator stands was. The spectators were all pasted with a textured texture. Each and every one of them was made of paper. The faces on the spectator stands were mosaics that could not even be seen clearly. This reminded Qin Guang of the PS1 football game he had played many years ago. Well, this might be a little more tragic. It should be like the Minecraft in the 8-bit console. The dubbing of the spectators was also very bleak. Qin Guang scratched his head. He did not understand what was going on. From the size of the Colosseum, the Celestial Grail this time should be of a higher level. However, in order to more efficiently use the power of the Holy Grail on the content related to the mission, the spectator stands that could only help to create the atmosphere were greatly simplified. They did not even prepare many lines. Qin Guang did not mind this. It was better to look fake. Otherwise, when he started a massacre, he would feel very uncomfortable in front of so many real people. Since the slaughtering world was an ancient Roman Colosseum, the content of the mission this time was not difficult to guess. The name of the Celestial Grail should be similar to the Colosseum that was taught in the textbooks. Using the previous celestial grail that he had participated in, he should be thrown into the Colosseum like the ancient gladiators. He must kill the beasts or other gladiators that were thrown in round after round. After experiencing the cruelest life and death challenge in the world, he would regain his freedom and be free. There might be a slight difference, but it should not be too far off. Sigh, it was a pity that the killing ability that was trained in this way was useless. Could I train myself to be cold-blooded? But this was meaningless. Everyone had no choice. Either others died or they died. They would become cold-blooded. There was no need to train. While thinking this, Chen Guang walked to the edge of the Colosseum and looked at the mosaic paper people up close. Gradually, as time passed, he realized that the situation was a little strange. It had been almost 10 minutes since he came in. He had walked around the Colosseum with his hands behind his back, but there was still no movement from the real mission. In the past, every time he came in, the mission would quickly fall on his head. This was the first time he had waited for 10 minutes without any movement. His ears were still buzzing. Chen Guang scratched his head and said to himself, "Strange, what the hell? I can't just wait here for nothing, right? Although time in the Celestial Grail is not valuable, doesn't it take energy to maintain this Colosseum?" He scratched his head and suddenly shouted, F***CK. It was not that he found something strange, but that he was shocked by the feeling of his fingers being empty. Spreading his hand out, Chen Guang rubbed his bald head. The smooth sensation that he hadn't felt in a long time appeared again, but he did not miss it. "Where's my hair?" It turned out that when he was scratching his head, he realized that his beautiful hair was gone again. This was very unscientific and unreasonable. Wasn't his image and body in the Celestial Grail a perfect copy of his body in the outside world? Why did he lose his hair for no reason? This unlucky Celestial Grail could not bear to see the old man be a little more handsome, so it had to turn me into a monk? F***CK. Chen Guang could not help but curse. Then, his expression changed drastically. He found that his voice had changed too. It was normal just now, but inexplicably, when he spoke, it became someone else's voice. It sounded quite manly and magnetic, but Chen Guang knew that it was definitely not him. He was completely at a loss this time. God knows what the heavenly Holy Grail was up to. It had inexplicably tampered with his image and voice, and it did not even give him an explanation. The last head-on blow happened 5 minutes later. He walked in front of a pool of water and looked down to see his own face in the pool of water. Who is this? Why am I so handsome? I'm so handsome that my face is bleeding. I must have undergone a genetic mutation. Alright, it's not like I can't accept being bald. After all, it's like this in the Celestial Grail. Silently looking at this bald handsome guy who looked 30% like Wentworth Miller, 30% like Van Diesel, 30% like Bei Shui, and 10% like Guada. Oh no, Jason Statham, Chen Guang could not help but sigh in his heart at the wonders of the Creator. Looking at this face from different angles, he could see the shadow of a foreign bald handsome guy from every angle, but after combining them together, he looked like a proper Huaxia person. This is unbelievable. Did the Holy Grail sense my obsession to become handsome, so it gave me a free face shaping function that I often use when playing online games? Forget it, I'll just change my face. At least I'm becoming handsome, not ugly. As he thought of this, he returned to his old habits. He unconsciously reached his hand to touch his bald head. His movements were very smooth and natural. If others saw it, they would only think that he had been bald for a long time. Chen Guang, who was having a good time touching his head, suddenly realized this and hurriedly removed his hand. Actually, although the bald Beckham was also very handsome, Chen Guang still preferred the blonde youth from the 1998 World Cup in France. After that, he looked at his palm again, and then looked down at the ground. With my many years of walking experience, my eyeballs are now 5 centimeters away from the ground. In other words, my height has become 185 meters. Forget it, I've lost my hair, changed my face, changed my voice, and changed my body and limbs. I've completely become a different person. There's nothing unacceptable about it. I'll just treat it as creating a character for myself when playing online games." As expected of the big-hearted Chen Guang, he could still quickly calm down in this kind of situation. "Then the problem is, even if I enter an online game now, and my character has already been created, what about my mission? I've waited for almost 20 minutes, and there's still no movement. Don't mess with me. You can't expect me to stand here stupidly until the end of time, right?" Just as he was cursing in his heart, the long-awaited electronic notification of the heavenly Holy Grail finally sounded in his mind. All of this was strange. Although the tone of this electronic voice was completely the same as before, as a world-class acting master, he subconsciously felt that there was emotion in this voice. That's right, there was emotion. The cadence was still the same stiff 1 + 1 = 2 that he used to type out with a calculator, but his intuition told him that this electronic voice was different from before. The slaughtering world is about to be activated. "Savior, please prepare." Chen Guang quietly replied, "I've been preparing for almost half an hour. Player is currently loading completion 1%, 2%. Chen Guang continued to calmly shrug his shoulders. "Oh, you're pretty good at playing. The NPC's name has even been upgraded to player? What a sinister intention." At first, he thought that this might be the heavenly Holy Grail purposely making the virtual character a player in order to forcibly create the psychological pressure and authenticity of massacring in the slaughtering world. However, when the loading progress reached 66%, the smile on his face suddenly froze. There seemed to be something wrong. If it was an NPC, then it should have existed in this slaughtering world from the very beginning. Otherwise, based on the heavenly Holy Grail's past behavior, it should have appeared in front of him directly and charged toward him while roaring. It shouldn't have waited for him, the Savior, to arrive first before the Holy Grail slowly loaded it. What's going on? Chen Guang muttered to himself, trying to communicate with the spirit of the Holy Grail. But the electronic voice ignored him, and continued to count the percentage again and again. Could it be that this so-called player is a real person? That's impossible. There's no reason for it to be like this. This is my cup, and I'm the only master of the heavenly Holy Grail. How could there be someone else who could enter? He comforted himself, but very quickly, he refuted himself. He finally remembered something. In a sense, it seemed that the entire world that he was in, the entire universe, could be considered as already in the cup. First of all, the real world was one of the special worlds in the world within the cup. Now, the real world and his real world had already merged to a certain extent. This meant that everything in the real world had already been contaminated with a part of the characteristics of the world within the cup. So the meaning of this slaughtering world seemed to be pulling in those people in the real world who had already been contaminated with the characteristics of the world within the cup. Isn't this a bit too much? How should I explain to the others who have been implicated? Also, do I really have to kill all these living people? I have no enmity with them, and they are neither relatives nor friends. I really can't do it. With such thoughts in mind, that player finally completed the loading of the slaughtering world. Player loading complete. In 10 minutes, the slaughtering mission will begin. All players, please quickly adjust your state and prepare. Good luck. The electronic voice spoke again. Chen Guang was dumbfounded as he looked at the flickering lights in the distance with silhouettes appearing in every corner of the bestial battle arena. When those silhouettes gradually dimmed down, the silhouettes that appeared before him were men, women, old, and young. But these people all had one thing in common. They were all wearing black leather tights. On these tights, there were 2 bands of light extending from their toes to their necks. This is real. Holding on to his face, Chen Guang was dumbfounded. What is this spirit of the Holy Grail doing? Chapter 1155. Looking at the 100 or so players, Chen Guang fell into deep thought. Does that mean that I have to fight with these players? Isn't the difficulty of this mission a little too low? With my strength and the fact that this is the world in the cup, if a normal person were to be dragged into this, wouldn't he just close his eyes and be easily defeated? Also, the spirit of the Holy Grail had clearly said that the massacre mission had begun, but it did not give any instructions for the next step. This did not fit the Holy Grail's style in the past. In the past, although the Holy Grail's electronic notification was also a man of few words, the mission instructions were never vague. They were always very clear, and Chen Guang only needed to follow the Holy Grail's instructions and complete the tasks that he should complete. The world of true martial was slightly more complicated. At the start, it only told him that he needed to become a martial sage, but it did not tell him how to do it. After that, Chen Guang figured out a way to do it, which was to first learn all the martial arts in the world of true martial and then merge them into one. But no matter what, at least the spirit of the Holy Grail had given him a specific goal. It only omitted the process of reaching this goal. But now, in this world of massacre, there were only 4 simple words: massacre mission. In that case, how should this mission be carried out? What should Chen Guang do? What should he do in order to complete the mission? None of these had an answer. Looking at the dumbfounded players, who were standing in the same spot with their eyes closed, Chen Guang had mixed feelings in his heart. He was considering whether he should strike first and give these players a vicious blow while they were still asleep. However, he was a little hesitant. The electronic notification of the spirit of the Holy Grail had said, "I wish you all good luck." The electronic voice had said, "You all," and not, "You the Redeemer." Then, could these players really be living people? Then, if I kill them in the world in the cup, will their physical bodies in the outside world also die with them? Of course, with Chen Guang's experience, he could not completely believe the words of the Holy Grail. It was very likely that the spirit of the Holy Grail had seen through his personality and purposely said, "You all," to make him think that he was smart and think that the players were real people. In the end, it ordered him to kill these players. It was purposely torturing and questioning his mind. Shameless Holy Grail. Forcing me to think that I am killing people, then making me continuously blame myself and slowly get used to this feeling of disregarding human lives. Making me addicted to killing and unable to free myself. Then, when I get out, will I become the most cold-blooded butcher in human history? What kind of joke is this? Am I that kind of person? Stop dreaming. I've already seen through your scheme, Holy Grail. You so-called players are all NPCs. As Chen Guang's mind frantically wandered, several thoughts popped into his mind as he analyzed all sorts of possibilities. Stop dreaming. I have already seen through the Holy Grail's tricks. You so-called players are NPCs. While he was analyzing, he suddenly realized another situation in shock. Previously, when he was in the world in the cup, his mind would be sealed. Although his thoughts would not be affected, his emotions would not be affected. Even if he repeated the same thing millions of times, his emotions would not be affected. But this time, it was not the case. He was actually angry at the Holy Grail just now. Chen Guang understood. This meant that my mind was not sealed. This meant that the things that happened in this world of slaughter could indeed affect my mind. This is bad. If this is really the case, even if these are really NPCs, if I am forced by the Holy Grail to kill batch after batch, sooner or later I will not be able to hold on. I will confuse reality and illusion and sink into this bloody world, unable to extricate myself, right? Just as he was thinking about it, the players who had been motionless suddenly moved. Ah! A shrill scream came from the mouth of a girl not far from Chen Guang. It even temporarily suppressed the repeated cheers from the stands in Chen Guang's ears. Chen Guang turned his head to look at the girl. She was about 1.6 meters tall, had medium long hair, very fair skin, and a petite figure. Her small face looked quite cute. She probably had the appearance of a well-behaved girl that would be liked by many people in the same class. At this moment, she was holding her hands, looking around in fear and panic. Just from her scattered pupils, one could see how lost and terrified she was. Chen Guang turned his head to look in another direction, observing everyone with his keen senses. He was still pondering whether these people were alive or just NPCs. This was an important question to him. Oh my God! What is this situation? Where is this? It was a slim girl in a business suit. Massacre quest? What is a massacre quest? I was watching the NBA at home. I saw an old man in his 30s beating up the strongest 175 player in the world. Why did I come here for no reason? What the hell is going on? It was a fat man with a big belly. He was holding the essential popcorn in his hand. A few meters away from him, a white-haired old man with crutches squatted down on the ground. The old man looked around blankly, and then wailed, "What's going on? What's wrong with me? What kind of evil god did I bump into? God bless me. God bless me. God bless me. Qin Xiong bless me. What's going on?" However, not everyone was in such a panic. Some people were frowning as they watched everything from the sidelines. They seemed especially wise and profound, but their eyes revealed lingering nervousness and curiosity. Looking at these players, who were seemingly dragged in by force, Chen Guang kept reminding himself, keep pretending, keep pretending. The Holy Grail is getting more and more cunning. It's imitated the reactions of these NPCs so well that it's almost as if it's real. There's the panicking faction, and then there's the calm faction. I don't believe it. His gaze shifted, but he noticed something else. Those who were calm seemed to be too calm. Also, there were indeed people in this world who could quickly calm down after suddenly being involved in an unusual situation. They could remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of them. They could then quickly sort out the situation in a completely strange situation and make the right response. However, shouldn't such people be rare? There should only be one among hundreds of people, right? But why was it that almost half of the 90 people belonged to the calm faction? Hey, Holy Grail, the distribution of people between the calm faction and the panicking faction isn't very scientific. It's very fake, okay? I've already seen through your disguise. Furthermore, you can't really be the dragons and phoenixes among humans that were carefully selected to join this slaughtering realm. Otherwise, you'd be half dragon and phoenix, while the other half were normal people who would act like headless flies when encountering a situation. The difference would be too great. They're starting to gather together. Without any prior signs, the semi-calm faction approached the same direction through the exchange of glances without communicating with each other at all. Although the movement of these players seemed to be silent, there was still Chen Guang who was calmer than everyone else here. With just a glance, he could clearly see the movement of these people. This clearly didn't make sense. If these players were really normal people, how could they form such a tacit understanding out of nowhere? Chen Guang slowly sat down and pretended to be a normal person, but he was secretly paying attention to the final direction of the calm faction. It was a tall, golden-haired man, more than 2 meters tall. His body looked very strong, but he wasn't overly fat. The most conspicuous thing about him was his fluffy golden hair, like that of a lion. This golden-haired man was very imposing. He didn't panic like the others, and there wasn't even a trace of curiosity in his eyes. Instead, he was examining everything in the Colosseum with a scrutinizing gaze. Through this person's expression, Chen Guang vaguely had an illusion. Damn, it looks like I'm the owner of this territory. Are you kidding me? Acting tough in my territory? Did you get my permission? My world in the cup doesn't allow such a powerful NPC. Suddenly, the golden-haired man seemed to sense Chen Guang's gaze. He turned his head and looked at Chen Guang from afar. Chen Guang frowned. Of course, he wouldn't be afraid, so he stared back at him with the same scrutinizing gaze. Their eyes met, and the air stagnated at this moment. There was a strong sense of provocation. This NPC is very irrational, Qin Guang thought to himself. The golden-haired man suddenly laughed, then turned his gaze in another direction. However, the moment he moved his eyes away, Qin Guang felt that there was a murderous look in this guy's eyes. He wanted to kill him. However, not all the calm faction members were moving in the direction of the golden-haired man. There were another 5 or 6 people in the crowd who were looking at everyone around them with vigilant eyes, as well as everything in the stands. This new discovery made Qin Guang feel very surprised. I was just in a meeting in the office. Why did I suddenly come here? What is going on? At this moment, one of the calm middle-aged men rubbed his eyebrows and whispered to himself. Although Qin Guang was far away from him, he could hear his whisper very clearly. However, Qin Guang would not easily believe his words. It was entirely possible that the NPC deliberately said such words to mislead him under the setting of the Holy Grail. The middle-aged man turned his head, and his gaze slowly became focused and firm. He whispered to himself again. Forget it, since I'm already here, I'll just take things as they come. Could it be that I read the Infinite-style novel, Infinite Horror, a few days ago, so I've really been swept into the Infinite-style's worldview? What's written in the web novel is true. That's right. It must be true. This has already become a reality, what else do I have to doubt? As the middle-aged man talked to himself, his emotions slowly became agitated. He did not know that there was a young man hundreds of meters away who could clearly hear his every whisper. After all, there was no one within a few meters of him. I can't believe that although I'm just a sales executive of a small company, I actually have the life of a novel's protagonist. Since I've been chosen, then I can only grit my teeth and endure, right? After all, every novel's protagonist has to go through hardships and dangers to become the man who laughs in the end. Thanks to his calm personality, and of course, thanks to the big heart that he had just finished reading an Infinite-style novel, his performance was really special compared to others. After making his decision, the man named Lu Chang turned his attention to the others next to him. Perhaps he was forcing himself to calm down, like the protagonist of every novel, and strive to choose the right alliance in the first Infinite-style mission to improve his chances of survival? He stared at a calm person who was moving in the direction of the blonde man and slowly walked over. Friend, did you find anything? My name is Lu Chang, hello. The man named Lu Chang tried to make his tone sound very calm. Then, as he spoke, he approached the calm person, and at the same time, reached out to shake hands with the other party. The strong would always find ways to form alliances with the strong, especially in this unfamiliar environment. It had to be said that Lu Chang made a seemingly correct choice. The calm man who was called suddenly stopped in his tracks and turned to look at him, slightly curious. Lu Chang was getting closer and closer. Qin Guang thought that the two of them would shake hands. Unexpectedly, the calm man suddenly spat out a sentence. Get lost, lowly mortal. As he said that, he opened his palm, spread his fingers, and aimed his palm at Lu Chang. Lu Chang looked confused. What do you mean? If you don't want to talk, then don't talk. What's wrong with you? Qin Guang was even more puzzled. This NPC was a little unprofessional, wasn't he? Didn't you expose yourself? Also, with this posture, are you going to release a thunder palm? But there's nothing. Don't you feel embarrassed? The air between Lu Chang and the calm man stagnated for a few seconds. The man's mouth twitched slightly, and he retracted his hand. He looked down and said to himself, my divine power has been suppressed. He whispered to himself and then ignored Lu Chang. Instead, he looked at the blonde man in the distance. The blonde man met his eyes and nodded. The calm man sighed. Sigh. Idiot. Lu Chang ignored him. Since the other party was an idiot, there was naturally no need to cooperate. He cursed and turned to leave. Chi. As soon as Lu Chang's voice fell, an arm stretched straight out of his chest. This palm was stained with blood. About 2 seconds later, he began to scream at the top of his lungs. The calm man threw Lu Chang to the ground with a little force. Then, he shook his hand, and the blood on the back of his hand and the leather tights slid off. Then, he looked down coldly at Lu Chang, who was rolling on the ground and bleeding profusely. I've said it before, lowly mortal. I don't need my divine power to crush you to death. In the distance, Chen Guang's pupils shrank. Just now, when this man's arm pierced Lu Chang's body from the back, it was as if he had stabbed his hand into tofu. This calm man had terrifying power and physical strength. In addition, the moment he made his move, he even felt a familiar power from him. It was very similar to when Lu Li revealed her divine emperor true body. This was true divine power. Lowly mortal? Divine power? Could it be, these calm people were actually gods? Gods like Lu Li. What the hell was this situation? What the hell was this slaughter world trying to do? They were playing too big. Chapter 1156. Why is this happening? Why would a real god appear in the world in the cup? Also, is the Lu Chang who was just killed a real person or an NPC? Chen Guang fell into an unprecedented state of confusion and distress. As the Redeemer, what kind of role should I play in this killing mission? What kind of changes will the integration of the real world and the real world bring to me? What is going on with the outside world? Lu Chang, who was rolling on the ground, was still screaming. His chest was pierced by someone's hand like a claw. He would not survive. More and more blood gushed out from his chest and back. He coughed wildly, but he could only cough up more blood from his mouth. His miserable state made everyone look at him. At this moment, there was another scream from another place. Chen Guang quickly turned his gaze again. It was a middle-aged woman. She was covering her throat, but blood was still gushing out from between her fingers. In front of her, there was a calm woman who was shaking her fingers and walking away. Drops of blood were constantly dripping from her fingertips. Just as everyone's attention was on the woman whose throat was cut, there was another loud noise next to them. It was a white man flying in the air and then falling to the ground like a piece of leather. At the position where the man took off, a brown-haired woman was slowly withdrawing her right leg. At this moment, Chen Guang wasn't the only one who noticed their unusual behavior. The others also cried out as they stood up from the ground with tears streaming down their faces. They maintained a distance from everyone around them and looked at anyone that tried to approach them with vigilance. Chen Guang stood up straight. He subconsciously wanted to stop this kind of thing. Because he found that everyone who attacked the people around him was a calm person who was constantly approaching the blonde man. Although the two people behind did not speak, according to the information revealed by the calm person who attacked first, Chen Guang judged that all the calm people who were approaching the blonde man were in the same camp. Since their people could say such words as lowly mortals, then they were definitely not ordinary humans. It didn't matter if they were NPCs or not. They definitely weren't on his side, and they definitely weren't on his side. Chen Guang thought to himself. Anyway, no matter how pretentious I am, I can't possibly say something like lowly mortals and squash them to death like a fly, right? Forget it, the heavenly Holy Grail still has some humanity. At least it left a group of targets for me to kill without any psychological pressure. He really couldn't see through the truth of this world of slaughter, and he didn't know whether the people he killed were real people or insignificant NPCs, but at least Chen Guang could find an enemy in his heart. He stood up, intending to do something. At this moment, in his heart, or perhaps in everyone's heart, a voice rang out at the same time. Lu Chang is dead and has been reset. The poor sales manager who had her breasts pierced first was completely dead. Chen Guang turned to look in Lu Chang's direction, but found that after this person left a large pool of blood on the ground, his body had inexplicably started to ionize and gradually disappeared. What disappeared was not only his body, even the blood that had completely mixed with the sand on the arena ground also turned into light smoke-like ions that continuously floated up and quickly dissipated. Asakura Shizumi is dead and has been reset. Clayson Pablo is dead and has been reset. Very soon, 2 more prompts were heard. The other 2 people who were attacked later also disappeared completely, just like Lu Chang. Chen Guang's mind that had just calmed down was once again thrown into chaos. Reset? What the hell is this? Wasn't the death here real death? Was it reset? Then what did this reset mean? Was it referring to people dying like a lamp going out? Or was it like a computer system that was poisoned, then a system restore and then resurrected on the spot? Wait, why am I slowly starting to believe that these are real people? If it was really a so-called reset, then these players shouldn't be real people. Only computer systems and NPCs could be restored by the system. Ruri, tell me if I'm right. Ruri, come out for a moment and give me a reasonable explanation. He finally remembered that he still had someone who wasn't worth relying on that he could rely on. But he didn't expect Ruri to say this. Did you find anything? Don't disturb me, I also want to figure out what the hell is going on. Well, Ruri didn't outperform her usual performance. Her performance was still as unreliable as ever. It was only a little better than before when she didn't know anything. At least she seemed to be working hard, but this made people feel even more despair. In the past, Chen Guang thought that she only knew how to pretend that she didn't understand and that she was pretending to be confused. It seemed that this time she was really confused. Then tell me, are these people alive or NPCs? That's all I want to know. Why don't you try killing a few yourself and find out? F***CKU. Then are these bastards who have no regard for human life gods like you? I don't know either. Is there no one you know here? Oh no, familiar gods. Are you kidding me? What kind of existence do I have in the endless realm of gods? Among the billions of gods, there are no more than 50 gods who are qualified to talk to me. Even if these guys really come from the endless realm of gods, it's normal that I don't know them, okay? Are there really so many gods? Billions of them? I was just lazy and said an imaginary number. In fact, it's only a lot more than that. Forget it, I really can't count on you. Thunder throwing tower. What's the use of you? Why don't you try scolding me again? Lord Ruri is as beautiful as a fairy, gentle, kind, virtuous, kind, and amiable. Get lost, you're just like that. I've long seen through you. He. Wait, the aura of that blonde man is a little familiar, let me try. Ruri suddenly changed the topic. Chen Guang was overjoyed, but the next moment, Chen Guang heard Ruri scream. Not good. What's going on? Chen Guang, you really have to ask for more this time. Following her scream, Chen Guang inexplicably found that her voice gradually became softer and softer, and he couldn't even hear the last word, ask for more blessings, clearly before it came to an abrupt end. Lord Ruri. Ruri? Where is she? Chen Guang was dumbfounded. Does this mean that Ruri's communication with the Slaughter Realm has been cut off? Is the Holy Grail so awesome? The signal is blocked? The user you dialed is not in the service area? Since he could no longer count on Ruri, Chen Guang could only focus his attention back on the situation in front of him. Regarding this XX died, reset, command, everyone present had different reactions. Those who were calm seemed very calm, as if they had already expected it and had seen through the affairs of the world. They still approached the blonde man step by step. As for the ordinary people who had all kinds of reactions before, and the remaining 4 or 5 who were calm and did not go to the blonde man's side, they showed completely different states. Some had already been scared to the point of hysteria, as if they had gone crazy, but there were also some who had endured the initial panic and forced themselves to calm down. They tightly frowned and thought, desperately trying to maintain their rationality in the situation in front of them that was beyond the comprehension of ordinary people. In any case, only by calming themselves down could they survive, and not be like the 3 people who had been reset, being eliminated before the game even started. No one knew what the so-called reset meant. It could be death, or it could be that after their memories were erased, it would be as if nothing had happened. It would be good if it was the second possibility, but no one dared to gamble. In any case, it was definitely right to think of a way to not be so miserable. When everyone began to be vigilant, it was not difficult for others to find the direction in which these calm and collected people were moving. At this time, there were about more than 10 people gathered there. They were whispering to each other, and they even seemed to be looking forward to it with excitement. The strange situation that was incomprehensible in the eyes of others seemed to be a game that could arouse their interest in the eyes of these people. He did not know how others would see it, but with Qin Guang's judgment, with his mastery of acting, and understanding of psychology, those calm and collected people were looking at the situation with the mentality of a game. Qin Guang gritted his teeth. Sure enough, those who were not of the same race would have different intentions. What a lowly mortal. However, they did not succeed again. Everyone maintained the greatest vigilance against anyone who tried to approach them. Even if it was just a little bit closer, it would arouse hostility. Of course, even if these ordinary players were fully vigilant, it would at most cause the calm and collected people to waste one more second when slaughtering them. What really prompted them to stop was that the blonde man finally spoke. He simply opened his mouth and said softly, "Okay, come over first. These humans may still be of some use. This is our first mission, and we must not completely fail. Otherwise, our projections will be erased." His voice was very soft, but it should have reached the ears of every calm and collected person. Under the eyes of Qin Guang, several people who were about to forcibly attack immediately stopped and walked towards him. However, the other players should not have heard it at all. They all looked blankly at the calm and collected people who ignored them and turned to walk away. However, Qin Guang, who hid in the corner and watched coldly, heard this sentence. He frowned slightly. When the blonde man spoke, he used a special power. It gave Qin Guang a similar feeling as when the man stabbed someone's chest with his hand. This is the power of God? But why can I hear it? Well, my mind is really too chaotic today. I also have to calm myself down as soon as possible. Oh, right, whether the other ordinary players panic to calm down is a real human reaction or the acting skills of the NPCs given by the Holy Grail, it seems that there is actually no need for me to care. If this so-called killing mission really requires me to wield a butcher's knife, do I have any other choice other than to do it myself? Let's just pretend that I am lying to myself. Let's assume that they are really living people. But that reset should be the same as reinstalling a computer system. Qin Guang told himself this. Like the others, regardless of whether he believed what he saw or not, he also had to calm down. At least I have found a suitable imaginary enemy for myself. That's right, it is the half of the calm and collected people led by the blonde man. After a few more minutes, more than 40 calm and collected people gathered together. There was no longer any sound coming from their direction. Qin Guang felt that they should have used God's power to create a barrier. As for the others, they were still scattered around the ancient Roman Colosseum with a diameter of 1 kilometer. Soft sobs came from different directions from time to time. Those who could remain rational and calm were always the minority. At this time, the electronic voice of the Holy Grail finally came again. All players, please pay attention. The killing mission will officially start in 5 minutes. Mission 1, kill all the vengeful spirits. Following this mission announcement, an extremely ugly image appeared in everyone's mind. It was as if it was forced into their heads. It looked like a black blob, floating in the air like flowing gel. Drop after drop of unknown liquid kept falling from this ghostly thing to the ground. Then, as if attracted by a magnet, the liquid slowly floated up from below and fused with its body. This cycle was similar to the cycle of rain, clouds, and water vapor in the atmosphere. This vengeful spirit did not have legs, but it had 2 pairs of huge claws that were completely disproportionate to its body. In addition, it also did not have a head. It looked like a piece of rag that was thrown into the air. However, this rag not only swayed in the air, but it also let out an ear-piercing whistle. Below the image, there were also some words. Monster card, beginner vengeful spirit description, beginner vengeful spirit born from the cemetery. It is bred from the evil thoughts of many dead people when they were alive. Agility type phantom beast. It has astonishing speed and sharp claws. It has an innate hatred for the living. It will tear apart all living things in front of it, including grass. Seeing this monster card, some of the normal players covered their faces and screamed. Some of them looked serious. Some of them gritted their teeth and clenched their fists, weighing the strength of the two sides. It was quite hopeless. Although according to the monster card, this vengeful spirit was not big, about the size of a normal person, the latter half of the instruction manual made people feel hopeless no matter how they looked at it. Chen Guang let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what, this was good. He did not need to worry about whether he would become a bloody butcher. Fighting monsters was what the old man was best at. Everyone, quiet down. Listen to me. Listen to me. At this time, a middle-aged man with a sturdy figure in the center of the Colosseum shouted loudly. Chen Guang had noticed him before. He was one of the 4 or 5 normal players who quickly calmed down. It seemed that this brother had realized the severity of the situation and wanted to form an alliance. Sure enough, many people's attention was attracted by him. The man waved his arms confidently and continued, although I don't know what happened, I was training the players in my club. Then, I inexplicably came here. Even more inexplicably, I have to face this killing mission. But there is no doubt that we have 2 enemies. One is the vengeful spirit written in this monster card. The other is those people, right? The man said and pointed to the distant tranquil faction members who were coldly watching from the sidelines. People nodded one after another. It was clear that his analysis was very popular. They are very strong. They can easily crush us. This vengeful spirit looks very scary. So, shouldn't we form an alliance first? Let me introduce myself. I am a retired Sonda athlete. Now, I am a coach. If you are willing to believe me, come to me. We can only survive this strange killing mission if we unite. The middle-aged man waved his hand and said in a very provocative manner. Chapter 1157. His words resonated with a lot of people, and gradually, some people began to move closer to his side. But the arena's arena was about 1 kilometer in diameter. No matter how loud his voice was, it could only radiate to about 100 meters around him in the noisy cheers. Fortunately, he was in the center of the entire arena. Although the people in the distance couldn't clearly hear what he said, in this kind of situation, it was innate for humans to stick together. There were only 5 minutes left until the monster card's rather ferocious-looking vengeful spirit descended. Everyone knew that there wasn't much time to cry. No matter how scared they were, they had to stand up. Otherwise, what awaited them would be the same as the other 3 people being reset. No one wanted to try what would happen after being reset, but just by looking at the vengeful spirit's thick claws that kept waving in the air, they knew that if they were scratched by this thing, the process of being reset would definitely not be pleasant. Although the crying normal players still couldn't help but shrug their shoulders and shed tears, their eyes were hazy. But when they saw the people around them starting to move in one direction, they all subconsciously got up and walked in the same direction. Chen Guang thought about it. Perhaps the group of calm people didn't know that he was a very special existence like them. Instead of shedding all pretense of cordiality with them, it was better to first blend in with the crowd and wait and see. He also stepped forward and walked toward the center of the crowd. Gradually, with the MMA coach as the center, the other 50 people scattered in the Colosseum's arena gradually approached this side. The boxing instructor wasn't stupid. As he called out to the incoming crowd, he quietly shifted his position. In the end, unknowingly, this group of normal players had occupied the 2 corners of the arena's arena area with the golden-haired man as their leader, the cool silent faction. Hiding at the edge, Chen Guang looked at these normal players at a closer distance. He focused most of his attention on the few people who had been particularly calm from the beginning. Apart from this MMA coach, there was also a very tall, very hot girl with an Asian face. At first, Chen Guang thought that she was also Chinese, but considering that the middle-aged woman who was reset was called Asakura Shizumi, Chen Guang wasn't sure if this girl was Chinese. But her behavior was really special. From the moment she came in, after a short moment of panic, she kept checking her clothes and looked at everything with a gaze similar to his. Even before Lu Chang, there was another calm man who tried to get close to her, but she quickly hid far away, maintaining a distance from this man, and escaped. In addition, there was a hale and hearty old man. He looked to be in his 60s or 70s, but he looked shrewd and experienced. From this old man, Chen Guang smelled something similar to the old men in Yanjing. There was also a boy who was about 15 or 16 years old. He was not tall and looked to be a little more than 1.6 meters. His face was pale, and he looked very malnourished, but Chen Guang's own image had been changed, and he didn't know if this young man's real body was like this. His behavior was also very special. He was neither excited and curious like those calm people, nor flustered and confused like ordinary people. Sometimes he was calm, but sometimes his eyes flashed with a crazy light. Chen Guang read his emotions. This was ecstasy. Chen Guang silently ridiculed him. If you were not an NPC, but a real ordinary person, you would probably be a serious patient in an online novel, thinking that you are the protagonist, just like that unlucky manager named Lu Chang. But his performance was much better than Lu Chang's. He understood the principle of shooting the bird that sticks out, so he didn't rush to communicate with people like Lu Chang and invite a fatal disaster. The 90 or so people who had entered had spontaneously divided into two groups. Only then did the young man follow the crowd and approach the crowd. However, as he approached, he still looked at everyone with great vigilance, unlike some people who had completely let their guard down. Gradually, the crowd became tighter and tighter, and the distance between people also became smaller and smaller. No one was in a hurry to reveal their names and identities in the real world. Instead, they looked at each other with a forced smile with vigilance. Suddenly, there was another "Poochie" sound from the crowd, followed by another blood-curdling scream. Everyone turned to look, and saw a child, who looked like a little girl running through the crowd towards the golden-haired man with a sinister smile. She shouted proudly, "Ha, stupid mortals, this is so fun. If it wasn't for Master Yuding's order, would really want to strangle you all to death." As she ran, she shook her right hand. Her right hand was holding a ball of blood. Behind her, a man clutched his chest, and slowly knelt down with a look of disbelief. His eyes were filled with despair and confusion. Chen Guang's brows furrowed tightly. He had noticed earlier that the little girl had called the man uncle very sweetly and cloyingly. Then, the man had picked her up without any wariness, and said something like, "Little girl, don't be afraid, uncle will protect you." He hadn't expected her to die a horrible death in the blink of an eye. Everyone was even more dumbfounded. Unexpectedly, as the little girl ran, she suddenly turned around and extended her hand towards a woman next to her. The little girl's movements were extremely fast. An ordinary person's naked eye would not be able to follow her movements. Based on Chen Guang's judgment, this little girl's athletic ability was not inferior to that of a bone force martial artist. The woman screamed and reached out her hands to block. As she screamed, the band of light that extended from the bottom of her leather tights to her collar suddenly released a dazzling light. This seemingly weak and timid woman had inconceivably used her hands to block the little girl's hand. One had to know that this little girl had just killed an adult man effortlessly. Then, the woman flew backwards, but did not die. The little girl was also stunned. Then, she shook her head and said, "Forget it, I'll let you go." This time, she ran towards the golden-haired man without looking back. She even said loudly, "Lord Yuting, I'm coming too." The woman who had blocked the little girl's attack raised her hands in a daze. She looked at her palms and muttered to herself, "What? What ability is this?" In the distance, Chen Guang was even more shocked than her. When the two bands of light on the woman's body lit up, he had actually sensed the power of the Holy Grail from her body. At this moment, Chen Guang felt as if a thief had broken into his backyard. Damn it, why the hell can someone else use the power of the old man's Holy Grail? Did you get the license issued by the master of the Holy Grail? What a scam. On the other side, the calm little girl had already moved further and further away, heading straight for the Lord Yuting she had mentioned. XX died, reset. This notification once again rang out in everyone's ears. Everyone who had been approaching each other suddenly stopped in their tracks. The trust that they had built up with so much difficulty was instantly shattered. Everyone returned to their previous state, questioning everyone around them. No one knew when the person who had been smiling just a moment ago would turn into a demon and take their lives. Then, he would run towards the tall man called Yuting, shouting that he was a lowly or stupid mortal. "Who are you? What do you want? Are you crazy?" Unexpectedly, the first person to yell hysterically at the calm group was the mixed martial arts instructor who had gathered everyone earlier. He appeared to be extremely angry. His eyes were bloodshot, and he looked a little crazy. His emotions were slightly out of control. This mixed martial arts instructor had stepped forward, causing Chen Guang, who had originally planned to take the initiative to attack, to change his mind once again. The person who had been attacked had already been reset. There was no point in acting rashly. More importantly, he had to maintain a high level of vigilance from now on. He couldn't let the same thing happen again. In addition, Chen Guang had also made up his mind. There were still about 40 to 50 normal players present. At this time, he had to be more spread out. If someone suddenly attacked, he might not be able to save them in time. However, if anyone dared to attack again, he might have to make the calm group pay with their lives. On the other side, the calm group who had been questioned slowly dispersed. The golden-haired man stepped out from the crowd. He ignored the mixed martial arts instructor's question and looked at the little girl who was returning to her team with a slightly reproachful expression. He scolded, "Wethany, did you not hear my order just now? I said, these humans still have some use. Why did you act rashly?" The little girl seemed to be very afraid of the golden-haired man called Yuting. She lowered her head and stood in front of him with her neck shrunk. "I'm sorry, Lord Yuting. I couldn't help but play a prank just now. I won't do it again." Yuting lowered his head and looked at her coldly. "Just this once. Don't do it again. The situation is still not clear. Although these mortals are indeed very lowly creatures, in this special world, even trash has value. The killing mission is about to begin. If we let them die now, it's equivalent to weakening our strength in advance. If the entire mission ends up failing, all of our projections will die here. Do you understand? That'll be fun. Remember to stop. All of you, come here. Immediately. Immediately." This time, the golden-haired man, Yuting, didn't use his special god's language to speak. Instead, he spoke like a normal person, and his voice was especially loud. It seemed like he was speaking to the normal players. Chen Guang raised his eyebrows slightly. After killing 4 people, they're trying to repair their relationship. But he definitely hadn't learned diplomacy. Who would try to get close to someone like that? On one hand, you called them lowly creatures, and on the other, you said they were trash. And now you expect them to forgive you? Why don't your nostrils grow towards the sky? You're clearly saying, if I'm not happy, I can slap you to death at any time. Although you're useless now, you might be used as cannon fodder for me later, so I'll let you off for now. Also, why did this bastard called Yuting keep mentioning projections? What the hell was a projection? A high-resolution projector? For watching a movie? As expected, everyone, including the MMA coach, couldn't hide their anger even though they were still afraid. Who are you? Why are you here? What do you want? Why do you want to kill people? At this moment, the Asian girl with the hot figure that Chen Guang had been paying attention to finally spoke. She spoke in perfect Mandarin. Yu Ting glanced at the girl, spread his hands, and shrugged. Who are we? We're gods. As for why we're here, you don't need to know the answer. You don't need to understand what we want to do. Then what do you need us to do? How do you want to use trash? The girl spoke again. Chen Guang secretly gave her a thumbs up. This girl was very smart. She looked rash, but in fact, she wouldn't let go of any opportunity to gather more information. What do I need you to do? Yu Ting combed his long golden hair. Just do what you need to do. You don't need to worry about the 4 mortals who were reset. Very soon, the low-level vengeful spirits will make you understand that this is just the beginning. Good luck. Oh, right, I'll tell you a piece of good news. At least before this game ends, we won't actively attack you. You can deal with the vengeful spirits in peace. With that, Yu Ting waved at 2 people in the crowd. As expected, the 2 walked out of the crowd with strange smiles. Lord Yu Ting, we haven't played enough. Shut up. This is the first and last time I'm warning you. This isn't a simple game. It concerns the fate of the endless realm of gods. It concerns the fate of every god. Nothing can go wrong. Put away your arrogance. At least for this first mission, since you've been chosen to be part of the advance party, you must listen to the orders of Divine Emperor Yu Ting. Yu Ting suddenly flew into a rage. He opened his palm at the 2 gods who were walking towards him. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, 2 bolts of lightning that were as thick as a finger shot out from his palm and landed on the 2 gods. 2 pained screams rang out. The 2 gods trembled violently, then fell to the ground. Bewitching flames surged out of their bodies, then disappeared without a trace. The 2 gods clutched their chests as they lay on the ground for a long time. Only then did they stagger to their feet. They begged for mercy as they crawled towards the other gods. I'll let you off this time, but there won't be a next time. Divine Emperor Yu Ting said quietly, then turned and walked away. The little lowly god from before clapped her hands. As expected of Lord Yu Ting. You can even use the power of lightning here. Amazing. On the other side, the crowd of ordinary players was silent. Everyone was shocked by the power of lightning that he had displayed in that instant. However, these people were not as shocked as Chen Guang. He was finally sure of one thing. These so-called calm people were indeed gods like Lu Li. Wait, did they just mention the word projection? Then, maybe what appeared here wasn't their real bodies, but a so-called mirror projection that possessed a portion of their power? Oh, that's right, the god who attacked Lu Chang first mentioned that his divine power was suppressed in the slaughter world. There was one more thing, and this was the most important. This divine Emperor Yu Ting said that this wasn't a simple game to them, but that it concerned the fate of the entire endless realm of gods. According to Lori, the Holy Grail was just a divine artifact in the endless realm of the gods. It was not even comparable to a finger of her father, the master god of chaos. Why would it be inexplicably linked to the fate of the entire endless realm of the gods? How did they break into my Holy Grail? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.